It's live next. There can be no better place to spend a Sunday afternoon. Good afternoon. And rounding off our Super Sunday at VIR is the main event for the IMSA WeatherTech SportsCar Championship. This is the Michelin GT Challenge at VIR. In the Full Performance Global Broadcast Centre, Jeremy Shaw and me, John Hindorf, Shea Adam, will be our eyes and ears in the pit lane and paddock. We're just outside Danville in Virginia for a superb challenge. 3.27 miles and 17 corners. The run down from turn 17, the hog pen, through the kink at the start-finish line to the horseshoe at turn 1. Very spectacular. I think we'll see 2 or 3 wide after the green flag there. Technical section all the way from turn 1 to the entrance to the oak tree turns at 11 and 12, and then the run back down to the top of the hill at turn 14, the start of the roller coaster. There's something for everyone. The car setup, always a bit of a compromise. Do you want your car to be very good and fast in a straight line and therefore take off some of the aerodynamic downforce and drag? Or do you want it to be nailed on through the twisty bits? It's always going to be, as I say, a bit of a compromise. Madison Snow will bring the cars round to the green flag for Paul Miller Racing. This is the BMW M4 GT3 that won in GTD last year. They've moved up to the Pro category and they've got a Corvette alongside with Antonio Garcia. Then the 2 Ford Multimatic Ford Mustang GT3s, the 64 and 65 for Harry Tinknell and Joey Hans. Row 3 is the 5th of the Pro cars, Tommy Milner in the 2nd of the Corvettes, and a brilliant lap yesterday for Gianmarco Leverato. Proton competition in the 55, the light blue Ford Mustang GT3. We'll talk about the GTD Pros and the GTDs. The Pros have got the red number squares, the GTDs have got the green, but ultimately the cars have the same performance potential. It is the drivers that make the difference. Good afternoon, Jeremy Shaw, 2 hours and 40 minutes, and for you and I here in the Full Performance Global Broadcast Centre, this is going to be, I feel, another classic GT challenge here at VIR.
Yeah, it'll probably feel like about 25 minutes, to be honest. It'll go past pretty quickly. I think it's going to be a really exciting race strategy. Certainly it's going to be important. She talked about it very briefly there, the fact that tyre degradation is an issue here, and we've seen in the past drivers making slightly earlier pit stops than would have been anticipated in order to get out on the racetrack on those fresh tyres, make up some time so they're ahead when the drivers that stay out longer running on older tyres. So things like that are going to be really interesting, and it's kind of ebbs and flows. If you do that in the first stint, maybe it'll cost you in the second stint or the third stint. 2 pit stops we're expecting from all of the cars during this race, John.
Porsche keys to the race. Basically, you're racing everyone. You need to have controlled aggression. Go off here and the grass will slow you down, or worse. Stay clean on penalties, particularly through that pit stop cycle, but be prepared to go for long periods of green. And then that tyre degradation that Jeremy mentioned, well, you've got to manage those Michelin tyres. Be kind in the first part of the stint, and if you look after your Mitchies early on, they'll look after you when it's the run to the flag. Shea Adam is our pit lane reporter. First thing, Shea, are you on your own in the pit lane now? Have we got everybody rolling?
Yes, as far as cars are concerned, no, I'm not alone, because I have all the IMSA safety officials out here with me and the pit officials ready to go. It's a warm day for all of us out here, but we are amped up for this 2 hour and 40-minute contest.
What are you looking forward to there, and where are we going to see the action? Because not everybody had a perfect qualifying run yesterday.
No, and there's a lot of championship contenders that are well out of place. So I'm looking for how those people who have done so well throughout the season recover and or handle the situation. Do you stay calm, cool, and collected, or do you pay attention to what Kenton Cook says, which is if you're not going forward, you're going backwards? So I think we've got two very diverse groups within the field, the people up at the front who haven't been there so far this year, and the people who are usually at the front who find themselves with a little bit of making up to do.
Coming down towards the green flag, the Ford Mustang safety cars, the lights out. Jeremy, good point that Shea is making about the championship. We're into the money races here with just a couple of events to go, and some of the championship contenders aren't where we expected them to be.
Yeah, John, I mean, interestingly, the top two in points in GTD Pro will start last in the GTD field into this race on the 7th row of the grid overall. They've got some work to do.
Got a very special guest to wave the green flag, and looking fairly sharp for over 100 years old. The green flag is in the hands of Bibendum as the IMSA WeatherTech SportsCar Championship Michelin GT Challenge at VIR with 2 hours and 40 minutes on the clock is green flag. Nice job by Bib as they go, as I thought, 4 wide. Looked like it was a pretty clean start. Nobody looked to change the lanes before the start stripe, and Madison Snow converts from pole position. Looked like Harry Tinknell might have sneaked through into second place, and then it's the 2 Corvettes ahead of his teammate Joey Hand. Yes, that is Tinknell's car, the 64, that's gone up into second place. So that is from the second row of the grid. He followed the pole sitter through, and in the lead in GTD, the Court of Preston Motorsport Mercedes of Kenton Cook, he was going forward very early on and has nicked away the top spot from Proton's Ford Mustang, just sitting ahead of that light blue, that very noticeable light blue car. Watch out for Klaus Bachler for AO Racing in the Porsche, and Alex Riberas for Heart of Racing in the dark 23 Aston Martin. Those are the 2 leaders of the GTD Pro Championship that Jeremy was talking about, who were mired down on the 7th row after qualifying. All the cars with the same performance potential. The GTD and GTD Pro classes are defined by the skill levels and experiences of the driver. Well, we're off and running, and I'm just going to get them down and get Madison onto the front straight before I can say that we have had a clean first lap, but that does seem to have been the case, and pretty impressive first lap for the pole sitter Jeremy Shaw's Paul Miller Racing goes through, and Madison Snow has pulled out a 1.3 second gap.
Yeah, that was a great start by Madison there, and interestingly, that when he jumped on the throttle, they caught Antonio Garcia a little bit off guard, but not Harry Tinknell, who was on the gas almost as quickly as Madison and was able to sneak past that Chevrolet and get up into second position. The other Ford, however, in GTD class, started in the 6th position. As you say, he fell back a couple of places on that first lap. Kenton Cook then leads in GTD, and Elliott Skier in that green and yellow Porsche also got past the baby blue Ford of Gianmarco Lavorato.
That's all right. Patience is indeed a virtue in all forms of motor racing. Whilst this isn't one of the Michelin endurance races, we'll finish up the season with a couple of those. Indianapolis for 6 hours, and then of course the Motul Petit Le Mans at Michelin Raceway Road, Atlanta, for the season finale. 2 hours and 40 minutes is just long enough to let the strategy play out. Now Kyle Marcelli and the Lamborghini Huracan has lost all of the back end of the car, all of the bumper, the cover of the back end of that car. I can see rather more of that Lamborghini V10 gearbox and engine, and there's something on the track at the exit of Well, that's turn 1, isn't it?
4 and 5,
As
I think.
they've come through. Turn 5, excuse me. So he got a little dink, and that car then. Now the worry there, Jeremy, will be what that's done to the under tray of that number 45 Wayne Taylor Racing Dex Imaging Lamborghini, and whether that's affected the under tray here.
Yeah, well, as it departed the scene, there was a fabulous shuffling position amongst the GTD cars on that opening lap. The number 45 Lamborghini actually made up a couple of positions. Some of the losers were particularly car number 12, Frankie Montecalvo, who started 16th in the Vasser Sullivan Lexus, is down to 19th now, so he lost 3 positions. And there's quite a few other changes in order as well, so that's going to settle down now. But Lamborghini certainly seems to be running pretty well at this stage. It doesn't seem to be slowing down Kyle Marcelli.
Well, actually, as well, I think it is just the bumper cover. It appears to me that the important bits, the underneath of the engine, that diffuser with the strakes on it, the vertical pieces of carbon fibre which manipulate the air coming out from underneath the car and get the car to sit down at the back, I think they're still there. Mike, that said, this is a track, probably the track that you maybe need as little downforce as anywhere else, as we saw with Robin Liddell in the Michelin Pilot Challenge yesterday, and Frank Depew, who lost front and rear aerodynamic devices and barely slowed their car down at all. Now, what it did have was an effect on tyre wear, if not on outright pace, at least early on, Jeremy.
Yeah, perhaps so, but certainly it would have to wait on the car, and with less aero, less downforce, it probably fleeter on the straights, so it kind of swings and roundabouts there. Not ideal, but it wasn't as costly as it might have been.
Hello to Pasha Patterson, who met up with Shea Adam earlier on. Austin Hilliard Racing tuning in as well from the UK at just after 5 o'clock British summertime, just after 6 in Central Europe. Thank you for your company, whether you're on IMSA TV, on the player at IMSA Radio, in sound or vision, or of course YouTube as well outside the US. You could be listening to us on Sirius XM 206 in the States if you're travelling around. Let us know where you are taking in the coverage here on @IMSA Radio. Madison Snow has eased his pace just a little bit, but has pulled out a 1 second advantage, or at least just under, to Harry Tinknell, who made the jump into second for the number 64 Ford Multimatic Mustang GT3. Then it's the 2 Chevrolet Corvettes, 3 from 4, and Joy Hand is the next car up, and those 3 pretty much as one, 3rd, 4th and 5th position, and that is the top 5, and the top 5 in GTD Pro, Jeremy.
It is, and it's the Ford of Harry Tinknell is edging a little bit closer each of the last 2 laps, because on the first lap, you remember, you said it's 1.2 seconds, the gap between the race leader and that Ford in second place. It's come down by 1/10 of a second each lap since then. So again, same last time. It's now down to less than a second between those 2 at the front, and the first time there is a gap of more than a second between any of the cars is after Klaus Bachler, who's running 12th in the GTD Pro number 77. Alex Riberas, meanwhile, remember Bachler and Riberas, the first 2 in the points in GTD Pro, they started alongside each other on the 7th row of the grid, and Klaus Bachler has actually made up a position, but Alex Riberas has lost at least a couple of positions in that number 23 car, so it's been a difficult start for him.
Well, and as we said, Jeremy, in terms of performance potential, the GTD cars can, and in some sections of this race, will be just as quick as their GT Pro counterparts. There's nothing within the balance of performance, the technical regulations, that would stop them doing that. Ollie Jarvis, by the way, is the fastest GTD Pro for FAF Motorsports, the McLaren, number 9, 1:45.4, and in GTD, it is the Heart of Racing Aston Martin, with a 1:45.5, and just to underline that, Zachary Robichon, the teammate then of Alex Riberas, had his car going pretty much 6-7 tenths of a second quicker than the Pro car, and that is absolutely to do with where they are on the track and how much the driver is wringing out of that car. Alex may be playing a slightly longer game given his position in the championship. Hello to Arnage Rob, who is on the Costa Smeralda in Sardinia, watching on the iPad, overlooking a very nice looking swimming pool. Envious. Very, very envious, Rob. Thank you for tuning in via YouTube, or of course you can link in via IMSARadio.com, and we have no interruptions on that. I know that you will be getting some of the YouTube interruptions if you are further, unless of course you're a YouTube Plus subscriber. But no subscription required for the IMSA Radio video player. Harry Tinknell going quicker, 1:45.2. That's the fastest lap of the race so far. He's dragged himself within half a second to Madison Snow. Just over 160 miles an hour as they come down the back straight before they gather themselves up for the run down the roller coaster. Snow then to click off and complete lap number 6. Heads across the line. 1:45.6, 1:45.5 for Harry Tinknell. It is 6 tenths of a second, but the silver, white, black and red Paul Miller Racing BMW getting a little larger, looking forward from Harry Tinknell's Mustang GT4. Early thoughts then from Jeremy Shaw.
Yeah, really interesting, isn't it, these early stages? That Ford Mustang, particularly in Harry Tinknell's hands, looks really fast. He's able to track down the race leader Madison Snow, stay right with him here and actually edge away a little bit from the pair of Corvettes that are dicing in 3rd and 4th position. So that's really, really interesting to me. In GTD, Kenton Cook and Elliott Skier there running in lockstep at the front there. The fastest lap of the race and GTD, however, has been set by Zachary Robichon, who's running 4th in the GTD class in kilometre 27th, in 11th position overall. He's set at 45.5, but you know, virtually the entire field, or certainly the top 17 or 18, all turning lap times within a second or so of each other.
It's Jeremy Shaw with me, John Hindhaugh, in the Ford Performance Global Broadcast Centre. Hello to reigning Monkfish, Woody. Good to have you. Another great weekend of coverage. Side by side in GTD, Elliott Skier and Kenton Cook. And Elliott just having to drop back a little bit as Klaus Bachler is coming through the field in the bright purple Roxy number 77. So now, was that a mistake by Kenton? That was the 120 going wide, the Wright Motorsport Porsche. So Elliott Skier has just dropped down a little bit after challenging Kenton Cook for the lead in GTD. Just ran off the circuit a little bit. He's ahead of Jack Hawksworth. But the Oak Tree corner has claimed another victim. It is a super difficult place to get nailed on every time, Jeremy. You're turning, you're braking, you're trying to keep the car underneath you there as you go into the first part of the Oak Tree, and millimetres will take you off the track there.
Yeah, it's tricky. I mean, as you're right, you're turning all the time through that corner. It's double apex right-hander there, and you're carrying pretty good speed through the first part of that corner. If you're carrying too much speed, you're going to run wide on the exit. And if you carry too much speed into the second exit, try to get a bit greedy coming onto the straightaway, then you're going to run off again wide there. So yeah, slight mistake there from Elliott Skier, but look, he's fast. He was fastest of all in one of the free practice sessions. I think it was the second free practice yesterday morning. He was the quickest time of everybody out on the racetrack. So clearly that Wright Motorsports Porsche has good speed.
Tracy Pinnock is cheering on Ollie Jarvis from the UK and is tuned in and watching. It's been a good start for Ollie, up to 9th position in that Pfaff McLaren. Held the fastest lap for a little while. That at the moment is in the hands of another Brit, Harry Tinknell, in 2nd place. Fastest GTD, Zachary Robichon, 3rd position in GTD, 10th in the overall. In the heart of racing, Aston Martin, 1:45.584. We're talking 0.3 of a second between the two fastest laps in the two different classes. Madison Snow, metronomically, sitting at mid to late 1:45. His best is a 45.5. He did a 45.9 last time around. Before that, he did another 45.9. Before that, I think it was a 49.8. And a 46.0 for Harry Tinknell takes the gap out to just 0.7 of a second at the line. Plenty of racing going on now. Jeremy mentioned this in our Michelin Countdown to Green and also in our Porsche Keys to the Race. Because effectively we only have a single category of car, albeit 2 categories within that class, call them subclasses if you will, the amount of lappery that we are going to see will be much reduced. At the moment, the car that's off the back of the field is Ore Fadani in the AWA Chevrolet Corvette. He is just coming up to the Oak Tree turn now, whilst the back of the field is halfway down the back straight and the front of the straight is coming to the start-finish line. So it is going to be a while before we get into the potential for the leaders for lap traffic. So what we're going to see here is pretty pure racing, Jeremy, that will be about how the teams and the drivers feel they are using the tools at their disposal, being the VP Racing fuel burning off and the Michelin Pilot Sport tyres. They've got to last really round about 45-50 minutes, don't they? So 16.5 minutes gone. Let's check in with Shea Adam down in the pit lane. Has had a very quiet first 15 minutes or so, and presumably, Shea, the teams are just sitting on the pit perches working through their spreadsheets right now.
All but one, the Dex Imaging Lamborghini from WTR Andretti has been, well, having a little bit of a conference between all their crew guys. One of them ran out to the wall and took a brilliant photo of the back of the car, so they were able to see the extent of the damage to the back of the 45 for Kyle Marcelli. They've determined that most of the wires that are hanging down just need to be zip tied back together, that they don't need to put the bumper cover back on necessarily. Looks like the diffuser is still intact, but they are going to be doing a little bit more service just to make sure that everything stays, nothing else knocks loose, because 2.5 hours of racing to go, anything can happen. And of course, now all their valuable parts are a little bit more exposed.
The one thing that's important, I think, to point out there, Shea, is that the brake lights and the rear light cluster is still there, the rear diffuser is still there. So in terms of things that are mandatory, everything's all right. There's nothing else to fall off, so there's no danger that would bring that car, need to bring that car in immediately. I'm sure they'll be talking with the IMSA pit lane officials.
This is also not a night race,
about
so the tail light rule does not pertain.
They need to put that bumper cover back on, and they'll work with them down on the pit lane. If there's no safety implications, and as Shea says, they'll be allowed to continue. The tail lights and brake lights are there. I mean, it's not a night race. but I think everybody would prefer the brake lights to be working, and they are. It's not part of that assembly that's fallen off. That's all underneath that on the back of the Lamborghini Huracan. Let's have a VP Racing in race update. We'll start with GTT, 6th position overall after taking the GTD lead at the start. Kenton Cook for caught off Preston Motorsport, the number 32. Has got a bit of clear track ahead of him, around about 3 seconds to the top 5, which are all pro cars. He's also got cover behind him because 3/10 behind him, the next car back is not a GTD car. It's Jack Hawksworth coming through the field in the Vassar Sullivan Sealmaster black and yellow number 14 Lexus. Then it's the light blue Proton Competition 2nd place GTD car, 55 of Gianmarco Leverato, the pole sitter. Zachary Robertson is 3rd in GTD for Heart of Racing's Aston number 23. Alex Skier in the green and yellow right Porsche is 4th, and rounding up the top 6, Carl Marcelli for that slightly damaged number 45, Wayne Taylor Racing, the black with red Dex Imaging livery, and Patrick Gallagher for Turner Motorsport, the 96 BMW in 6th. Top 5 are the top 5 in GTD Pro. Paul Miller Racing BMW leading by half a second from the 64 Harry Tinknell Ford Mustang in 2nd. He's got a second or so on the first of the 2 Corvettes. It's 3 from 4 in 3rd and 4th. That's handy, isn't it? And there's half a second between the 2 teammates. And then in 5th, further second further back, the 2nd of the Multimatic Motorsport Mustangs, Joey Hand. That's our VP in race update. 20 minutes gone, Jeremy.
Yep, and settling down now, the Heart of Racing Aston Martin Alex Ribras is still 9th and last in GTD Pro, 14th position overall. That's the bad news. The good news is he's made up a couple of positions over the last few laps. He got past the number 78 Lamborghini of Misha Goldberg about 5 laps ago, and then last time around, or lap before last, he got past the number 96 Turner Motorsport BMW as well. So he's making progress to get back on towards the tail of Klaus Bachler at least. Meanwhile, up front, the 2 leaders running pretty much identical laps, the top 2. So that's going to come down to pit stops, I feel. And the gap to the 3rd position about the same again, 1.2 seconds only between the top 2 and then the 2 Corvettes. Joey Hand hanging in there very nicely. Kenton Cook, however, he's slipping back at several tenths of a second a lap compared to the top 5. And he's got Jack Hawksworth behind him, but I think he's itching to try and find a way past. And Gianmarco Leverato, 2nd in GTD, is right with those 2 as well. So good battle there on the road for 6th, 7th, 8th, and then 9th, 10th, and 11th as well.
So now we are into the part of the race where all of that data that we gathered in the 1.5 hour free practice session and the 105 minute, now 45 minute free practice session 2, that is what is being crunched on the pit wall by the teams. Only 4 cautions total. The average number of caution laps here under 6, 5.7. And so our Porsche keys to the race prepare for green flag racing. So at the moment we might be in a little bit of a holding pattern. Ray Lethen from Cape Town, South Africa. I got the video on as well. What a picture that is, Ray. I'm retweeting that if you don't mind. What a backdrop you have there for our Michelin GT challenge at VIR. Truly international. That's the I in IMSA International Motorsports Association. Thanks for joining us from South Africa. Further on in the day where you are, looks like you're going to have a really nice sunset in Cape Town. And best battle on the track at the moment is for 22nd and 23rd position.
Yeah.
Karen Lee has caught Ori Fadani, and they're having a bit of a go at it for what is 13th and 14th in GTD, Jeremy.
Yeah, brilliant, isn't it? I mean, when we say there's battles all the way through the field, we mean that he feels like he's a bit faster, but he can't find a way past. He's certainly faster, I think, but he can't find a way through, can he, in that Porsche? The Chevrolet Corvette is on the piece of tarmac that Caron Lee wants.
Well, and that's the skill, isn't it? That is the part of racing that it's often easy to forget about. We've had some actually very good, respectful racing this weekend. Hard, but putting your car in the exact spot that the competitor wants to be is the skill, and doing that without moving around and blocking, being able to anticipate the moves rather than react to them. By the same token, when you're following, being able to work out where your opponent perhaps has the advantage over you and not try and pass that. Work out where you can sneak a little bit of an advantage coming out of a corner or going into a corner. It's been a good weekend for Madison Snow, Jeremy. That qualifying lap, a new lap record yesterday, absolutely mighty.
It was spectacular. I mean, that's got to be one of the best laps he's ever done, I would think, and he's done a whole bunch of good ones. You look, he's a BMW. I think he's a factory driver, is he? But he's a, what do they call it, development drivers? I'm not quite sure what the term is for BMW, but he's certainly part of the BMW roster nowadays, and that's exactly why, because he's not somebody who, this is not his living. He's got a proper job. But he's a heck of a race car driver, and he's driving this year, I think, better than ever. He's just getting better and better. The more he gets a lot of seat time, of course, these days, and he's reaping the benefits of that. It's really, really good to see. I tell you what, the couple of guys I think are struggling a little bit at the moment, John, are Kenton Cook. He's still leading in GTD, but he's dropping back, as I said, by half a second now, each of the last couple of laps, to Joey Hand ahead of him. The other guy who's struggling a little bit, I think, is Patrick Gallagher in the number 96 Turner Motorsport BMW. He's running in 15th position, but he also is falling back quite rapidly now from Alex Riberas. I mean, the gap now 7.4 seconds, and it was only 4 laps ago that the number 23 car found a way past.
Our eagle-eyed Alan Prosser has been looking at the back of that number 32 caught off Preston Motorsport Mercedes. And just to the right of centre, there seems to be a green light flashing just above the bumper bar. Not sure what that is, Alan, to be honest. We'll try and have a look at it. He's got clear track ahead of him at the moment as he heads down towards the first corner. He's keeping Jack Hawksworth behind him, which there can't be too much wrong with that car at the moment. But I tell you what he is doing. From the onboard sound there, that was a big lift and coast into the horseshoe at turn 1. Curran Lee, who was battling for 13th with Ori Fidani in the GTD category, well, the number 86 Porsche, the dark red metallic and bright highlighter yellow Porsche 911 from MDK Motorsports, had a little spin coming out of the Oak Tree corner. No harm, no foul. Hello to Bryn Smith, watching on from the UK as well, supporting Harry Tinknell. A set of model cars under his television. You can see there. Keep the pictures coming in at IMSA Radio. Looks good. Madison Snow still leading by just under a second. He's managing that gap really nicely. Probably about another 15 minutes at least before these cars are thinking about coming in for a drink of VP Racing Fuel. Keeping an eye on the lap times, just starting to go out a little bit now, Jeremy. Madison Snow, who'd been doing mid to high 45s in the first 8 to 10 laps, just starting to creep out. His average now just starting to creep out over 46 to 46.3 last time around. No slouch. 46.2 from Tinknell, 46.3 from Garcia, but it does seem as though it is the pace is just easing a little bit now. Whether that is looking after the tyres, or whether that is getting the fuel number required, obviously we're not sure at the moment.
No, I think probably a little bit of both, but 46.2 again, you're really consistent. I mean, the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 laps have all been within 0.2 of a second for our race leader, Madison Snow, and Harry Ticknell is pretty much keeping pace with him. Actually lost a little bit of ground on that last lap, lost about 1/10.5, but that's not much. Kenton Cook, meanwhile, he's in 46.8, so he's losing half a second a lap to the leaders. Lost another 4/10 on the last lap. Previous lap he lost 7/10 to the car ahead of him, which is Joey Hand. And the lap before that was another half a second as well. So it's kind of interesting to monitor those gaps between them. Back of the field, here's a good look at Sheena Monk, who's ahead of the championship leader, and she's keeping pace with those 3 cars ahead of her. It's now become really a 5-car battle with Brendan and Reeb at the head of that train in 17th position overall. The 2 cars we're watching there, the Acura, that was on the podium last time out at Road America. The car behind is a championship leading car. Russell Ward a little bit frustrated perhaps there.
So Gianmarco Leverato losing a position as Ollie Jarvis has already gone through. In fact, he's been off the track, hasn't he? He's just working out what was going on there. So the pole sitter for GTD has been off the circuit. Also hearing reports there may be a bit of damage on the back of the number 12 Lexus. We've certainly seen damage on the Dex Imaging 45 Lamborghini, so that's something else that Shea can keep an eye on the right-hand side of the number 12. In fact, let's go down to Shea for an update on this is the Lamborghini damage, Shea.
Yes, the number 45, they've continued looking at the picture that their mechanic, oh yeah, big damage to the back of the number 12 Lexus as it just rumbles by in the front straight. Big damage to the number 45. They're worried about the air hose line being compromised and the ability of the car to even trigger its jacks. So they walked over to Gradient, said, are you guys using that jack? No, was the answer. Can we borrow it for the next pit stop? Yeah, so they've now got that behind the wall, and when the 45 does come in for its pit service, they're going to try and put a new line on so that the air jack will work, and they won't just have to do the old-fashioned thing of using muscles to pump the car up in the air.
Gianmarco Leverato had indeed had an off a lap or so ago in the number 59 first form Proton Mustang. It was what has become the signature off this weekend, Jeremy, hasn't it? Just sort of understeering off as he came into the oak tree, just talking to his team on the radio, saying the gearbox had been a little bit recalcitrant, and that was enough to push him wide there. Didn't hit the wall was the key thing there for Gianmarco, Jeremy.
Yeah, very much so. He kept it off the tyre barrier, kept it on the green or orange of dirt here. So it's been a tough stint for Gianmarco, but look, he's learned a lot. He's run up with the leaders all the way through this stint after putting that car on pole position. And you know, for somebody so young, the first time here, of course, to VIR, they probably came here. I think they came here testing. I'm not sure, but certainly Corey Lewis has got a lot of laps around here. And as Gianmarco was telling Shea Adam yesterday after his pole-winning run, he's learned an awful lot from Corey. He's really enjoying working with Corey Lewis and this Proton team, of course.
I've had a complete brain fade today, and I'm very much indebted to Luca Pirovano for reminding me. The green flashing light, of course, on the back of the GTD car tells you that the lower ranked driver is driving the car, which I absolutely knew and completely slipped my mind. So, Luca, thank you very much for tweeting in. So that's the answer to Alan Prosser's question. So if you see any of the cars with the green number plates, green wing end plates, and green door mirrors, look carefully on the back of the car. There will be a green light illuminated if the lower ranked of the two drivers is in the car. Pretty good idea from IMSA. Doesn't cast aspersions on the driving ability of that driver, but it does mean that a driver coming up on the car in a faster category, not so much of an issue here with just the GTD cars, but perhaps when the GTP cars and the LMP2s rejoin us for the battle on the bricks next time out, then they will be able to say, I'm coming up on the number 27 car, and it's got a green light on. Who's driving that? And they will say, right, it is X. In this case, the X is a Z. It's Zachary Robichon who is behind the wheel of that car.
Who's doing a nice job running there in the second position, ahead of Elliott Skier in the 120 car. The 120 car was off the road a little while ago, certainly, but Zachary running a nice pace there. Only a couple of positions or so, maybe a couple of seconds behind Kenton Cook, who continues to lead, and his pace seems to have stabilised the last few laps. He's not losing as much time now as he was to cars ahead of him. By the way, of those cars ahead of him, it was number 65 car of Joey Hand. It's now, however, Tommy Milner, because Joey Hand, a couple of laps ago, made that pass for fourth position. So we've got Fords now in second and fourth, and the Corvettes have been split then in third and fifth. So that Ford versus Corvette battle is, well, heating up. Interesting, you just look at lap time there for the leader, John.
Jeremy, just a quick
time
one.
around.
Yeah, just a quick one here, Jeremy. We're going to see the Conquest Racing Ferrari, number 34, and the number 77, Klaus Bachler AO Racing cars into the pit lane. They have a stop and repair command from race control. So this is a mechanical black flag, the black flag with the orange disc in the middle. This is tyre operational requirements. Both the cars called for the same reason. 35 minutes elapsed means that we could get a driver change here. Here comes the 77 car. Shea Adam is in the pit lane. Klaus Bachler is joining you, Shea.
And he will be staying here. This is forcing AO to go on a different strategy, although for them it's not as detrimental as it is for Conquest, because minimum drive time has been met by Klaus Bachler. Up on the wall is Lauren Heinrich, the green helmet running around the right side. Now we're on the left side of the pink dinosaur. A little bit slow coming off the wall there for Lauren, but that's okay. I'll give him a pass this time. He's not slow on the racetrack. Doing 4 tires for this Porsche and full fuel, so it's not bad for AO. It just forces them to make another pit stop, and it forces them to do a bit of fuel save. But for Conquest, Manny Franco still owes us another 10 minutes out on the racetrack. So when they come in and they do the service for Manny Franco, they are going to change the tires. They are going to top them off, tire change being the issue that brought them into the pit lane to begin with. And that means they'll have less time to do their driver change in about, 8 minutes or 4 laps when they put Albert Costa Balboa behind the wheel.
Shea, did they put the wrong tyres on those cars then? Is that the problem, or have they been running at the wrong pressures?
Wrong pressures, because if it was the wrong tires, it would have been a drive-through penalty immediately after they had left the pit lane, and the Michelin RFID readers would have picked up on that.
Right, so that is constant monitoring from IMSA. Tyre pressures are mandated by Michelin. Looks like we had Ollie Jarvis drivers. No, that would have been passenger side door. Heck, the tall fella must have long arms to have reached that on the other side of that race car on the number 9. Yeah, definitely that door open, coming down the back straight to the top of the roller coaster. And, well, if Ollie reached across to get that, that is absolutely incredible. Movable aerodynamic device as well, possibly. As well. Let's go back to Shea Adam, who's got more pit lane callers, this time Harter Racing number 23.
Very interesting, because Ross Gunn is taking over the car, which he currently has second in the championship from Alex Ramirez. Ross's best finish of 4th at this track, which he's done a couple of times. Driver change is now complete. Alex is running back around the other side of the car. They've done the 4-tire change, waiting on fuel, and Ross Gunn fires it back up, still with the fuel nozzle attached though. There we go, now he is clear to go. So this car is chasing the car which came in the lap before, which had to make it stop. The Harter Racing did not have to make it stop. Leaving the pit lane, I think it's going to be behind Roxy.
Thank you, Shea. Hello to Chris Foy, who's taking on Essential Fluids in Dubai and tuned in. So that could be very costly indeed. At least it means that the Lauren Heinrich, now driven number 77 AO Racing, Jeremy, they're going to have to think a bit more carefully about their strategy.
Well, actually not, because, and the reason I say not, you're right in a way, but you're not right another way in that there's 2 hours to go. These cars can do about an hour, so it just means they've got to stretch it out for an hour, then make their stop, and then they can get to the end from there. So it just means the window is a lot less, lot narrower than it would otherwise have been. I mean, they can stay out in terms of fuel for another 20 minutes or so, I reckon, in this race, and then it would be another hour and then 40 minutes to the end of the race. So this way, they came in after, it was 37 minutes, so 2 hours and 3 minutes to go. That's just about doable. Might need to save a bit of fuel, but it's just about doable. So it's not nearly as costly for them as it would be for the number 34 car, which is running in GTD Pro. And as Shea said, they want to make that driver change, excuse me, in GTD, not Pro. So they have to make that driver change. They want to wait until they make their first stop until 45 minutes.
For the GTD Pro contender that won the championship last year, that would be the number 14 Vassar Sullivan Lexus. They too have come into the pit lane. Fuel, 4 tires, excellent stop by the Vassar Sullivan guys. No driver change. Jack Hawksworth is still aboard that very angry Lexus.
It's just under 40 minutes before that car came into the pit lane. So we are seeing a difference of opinion here. We remember in our Michelin Countdown to Green, we were talking about the fuel strategy, prepare for long green flag runs. We are on lap 23 at the moment. And it's been green all the way through, and there's contact at the left hook between AO Racing and Lauren Heinrich, and that was the rejoining Lexus, I believe, which is now, yeah, that was Jack Hawksworth rejoining in the number 14 car, and he was spun around there as they were both going at the left hook. Heinrich not all the way alongside. I think that one's going to get called, Jeremy. It's a late lunge.
Not close, that one, I'm afraid. Not quite sure what Lauren was thinking there. I mean, let's have a look at the onboard. Dives to the inside, not even close to getting a pass. That's going to be a penalty for sure, I think, for that number 77 car. So unusual mistake for Lauren Heinrich. He's been super consistent and very reliable this season so far, but that's a rare mistake from the German.
I just wonder if the pressure of having to come in a little bit early, maybe just playing on the mind of the driver. It will surprise you not at all to know that incident is under review. Conquest have finally come into the pit lane for their tyre problem.
That's annoying for them because it's just before the 45-minute minimum.
Yeah, that's obviously what they were looking to go as long as they could, but you don't get any grace with a mechanical black flag. You're supposed to come in immediately, and that might actually cost them another penalty. They're on other forms of penalty, you have 3 times past the pits, but on a mechanical black flag you are meant to come to the pit lane as soon as is practical. So they may get pinged for that. Incident responsibility with the number 14. Jack Hawksworth spun around by the number 77 of Lauren Heinrich. That will be a drive-through penalty, which should put them about in the same place on the track, actually. He's been through and served that penalty. He's come back out onto the track in front of the number 23 of Ross Gunn in the Aston Martin. And in fact, he's right ahead now of Jack Hawksworth.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the lap time of the overall leader, John. 147.0 from last time around for Madison. So that's the first time he's been over 47. The previous couple of laps were 46.9 and 46.8, 46.6 before that. So I wonder whether this is a drop-off point for the Michelin tires, particularly in terms of the BMW. And, you know, I think that's one of the reasons why the number 14 car perhaps came in when he did, because I think he was, Jack Hawksworth, I think he was being held up a little bit by Kenton Cook, who was continuing to lose a bit of ground to the cars ahead of him. And now Jack Hawksworth's got, he hopes, yeah, he's got some clean air ahead of him. He's behind Lauren Heinrich and Ross Gunn, because they came in a couple laps before and again took advantage of that fresh rubber to turn a couple of quick out laps, and that is why Hawksworth is behind him. So that's really quite interesting, although he's a long way behind. Was that a slow stop?
Into the pit lane for the GTD leader, 44 minutes and 28 seconds elapsed. I think they've come a little bit early here for Kenton Cook. Oh my goodness me. They might be half a minute or so early. Shea Adam is in the pit lane with a lot of teams on the wall.
They are not doing a driver change for the 32. Kenton Cook is staying aboard, so that is not costing them. But for the 27 Heart of Racing team, nope, they're leaving Zachary Robichon aboard as well. So these teams with the Super Silvers, the drivers who are better than the most. I think that was left side tires only for the KPM Mercedes, but I could be wrong on that. Kenton is revving the engine, waiting on fuel. Yep, left side's only 4 tires for the 27 Heart of Racing and Zach Robichon. The Canadian staying aboard that car as well. Now we get KPM moving once again. Let's see, are they going to be able to beat out Heart of Racing? They should be able to fairly easily since they came in ahead. And yes, they do. The Mercedes is back out. Now we've met the minimum drive time. We've got driver changes aplenty. The number 57 Winward Racing Mercedes is in. Phil Ellis taking over for Russell Ward. This car, which leads the championship. Back into the pit lane, serving the drive-through is Roxy, the AO Porsche for number 77. It is Brendan Arif jumping out of the McLaren, possibly for the last time in IMSA competition, switching to a Ferrari for the next round. And one pit box further back, it is Sheena Monk out of the Gradient Racing Acura, handing over to Stephen McAleer. Fred Shandorf in the McLaren, by the way. Fuel and tires for both cars. Still waiting on fuel for both of them, and Phil Ellis with the Mercedes. We've also got AWA and their Corvette in. That is British Matt Bell taking over. Slight relation to Rob Bell, but I'm not going to confuse the two, John. And we've also got Kirong Lee out of the MDK Motorsport Porsche, handing over to Andres Fjord back. Fuel and tires for both of those cars as well. I do spot a Robbie Foley up on the wall. He will be taking over the number 96 Turner Motorsport BMW, fuel and 4 tires. And into the pit lane comes Faf, the McLaren. Number 9, Ollie Jarvis will be heading out. 4 new tires for Marvin Kirchhoffer. We've also got the number 3 Corvette that is due in here in just a few moments' time. Simsy going to be taking over for Garcia. And the car that started from the pole position, that's the number 55 Proton Competition Mustang. That is Corey Lewis jumping aboard for Gianmarco Liverato. Last time Corey had this situation, well, at VIR, he wound up victorious. Into the pit lane comes the Turner BMW, and who is that following them in? That would be the signboard for Forte, so their Lamborghini is into the pit lane. Laura Spinelli taking over for Misha Goikberg. Good pace from that car last year. Did not get a finish, actually, so they have a bit of unfinished business. Also into the pit lane, the last of the cars right now, the number 12 Vassar Sullivan Lexus. This car with quite a bit of damage to the right rear, but it does look fairly superficial. That will be Frankie Montecalvo jumping out, and Parker Thompson taking over to take it to the end of the race. Fuel and tires for that Lexus as well.
Top 5 yet to pit. Top 6, in fact, yet to pit. The top 5 are all GTD pros and Carl Marcelli. Meantime, while Shea was describing the pit stops for us there, Joey Hand has moved up into 4th position in the number 65 Ford Multimatic. Oh, no, it's the other way around, sorry. Yeah, no, that's got that the right way around. The Ford Multimatic Mustang, he's got ahead of Tommy Milner. So the 65 and the 4 have changed positions to the advantage of the Ford. So it's BMW, Ford Corvette, Lamborghini, Aston Martin, with the leading car that has pit stopped being the 6th position GTD Pro Heart of Racing team of Ross Gunn. And he's just set the fastest lap of the race. As Shea Adam has the number 3, the better placed of the 2 Corvettes in, with Tonio Garcia about to join you a little more permanently in the pit lane, Shea.
He looks quite satiated with his stint, walking very casually back over to the wall, hugging his seat insert as Alexander Sims, complete opposite end of that spectrum, just about tore Antonio out of the car to try and get his turn to race here at VIR. It's been a couple of years since since Alex has had that opportunity, but Simsy is raring to go. He won here back in 2018 for a different manufacturer, just waiting on the fuel hose. Now it comes out. I'm not going to give that a very good Corvette burnout. Come on, Simsy, do better next time, please. There wasn't even white smoke. Let's see what the Fords can do. No better way to rile them up than by comparing the two of them. The 45 has made it in, by the way. Kyle Marcelli brought the car in. I believe he is still aboard. They're doing a bit of work, even though the fuel nozzle has come out, as there is a big puff of smoke at the exit of 17. Anders Fjorback just dips a couple of wheels off there, but is managing to continue around. The work on the 45 is in the right rear of the car. That's where the cables were dangling out that they wanted to zip tie together. So the car is losing position now, but they want to make sure that the next time they come in, they don't need to use the old-fashioned jack from Gradient Racing.
Thank you, Shea. Shea Adam down in the pit lane. So I just wonder, Jeremy, I'm really interested in particularly what the court of AMG did. Court of Preston Motorsport. Kenton Cook is now back at the front of GTT. That was left side Michelin's only. I'm going to suspect that was tyre dependent rather than fuel dependent then in that case, because they were spot on the 45 minutes. They could have done one more lap and taken Kenton out if they'd wanted to.
Yeah, but he's running a good pace. He's doing a fantastic job, so not much point in taking him out, really. I think he's certainly capable of running the same sort of speeds as Michelin Grenier and keep him in there. But interesting, they only changed 2 tyres there. It's enabled them to keep the lead in GTD, but they've lost out to a couple of the pro cars, interestingly. So yeah, interesting strategy there from Court of Preston Motorsports. But you know, that team, that's a good team. Walt Preston knows what he's doing.
Well, let's get the answer straight from the horse's mouth. Mike Skeen, you're doing strategy this weekend for KPM. Why do the left side tires only on the 32 Mercedes?
We did all 4 tires, yeah.
You did all 4 tires that fast?
Yeah, all 4 fuel, we're good.
Wow, that was an incredible stop. Was that a tire-dependent stop? Were you running out of tires?
No, we felt we were in a good place, but we were responding to the 120 and a couple of cars that were, you know, we didn't want to get caught out with the yellow or anything. So just playing it safe, making good fuel numbers. Ken's doing great, so we're in a good spot.
Let's see where it ends up.
Thank you.
Good stuff, Shea. Thank you for clearing. Yeah, and thank you for clearing that up, Shea. That was a super quick tyre change. I did not see them do the right-hand sides at all. That was super pit work down there. And I thought that when they weren't working on the right-hand side with the fuel still going, and I thought, well, they've almost had time to change the right-hand side tyres. And they'd actually already done it. Quick is the word, sharp is the motion. New fastest lap in GTD for Inception, 1:45.382. So still only a couple of tenths between the 2 fastest laps of the races. Harry Ticknell comes into the pit lane for Ford. Shea Adam.
He's going to be staying with me as well. They're doing the driver change. It's taking a little bit of time, but the fuel nozzle is still attached, so they're not losing any ground. That was a great start from Harry as he's walking over to the pit wall and getting saluted by the crew members, just waiting on the fuel. It's so much fuel that needs to go into this Ford, and the Ferrari of Conquest Racing has just come in and done its driver change. There goes Mike Rockefeller. His best finish came way back in 2006 in the Grand Am days.
Really interesting moment for the Forte Lamborghini. Loris Spinelli pulled into the school pits on the back straight. I think he'd been off onto the grass before that, and he came pulled off left on the back straight into the school pit lane and jammed on the brakes without locking up the Michelins. I think what he was trying to do was clear some debris from the radiator grills on the front of that Lamborghini, and then rejoined the track, so did that in the safest place possible. I have a suspicion, and Shea Adam might remember this better than I, as she has a considerably younger memory than me. Did Loris do that last year as well in that car?
I think he did. I seem to remember that car pulling off into the school pits right before it decided not to drive anymore. As Loris is into the pit lane, and let's see what they go to work. Yep. Oh, he brought enough to feed a very small pony. That was quite a bit of grass for the 78 Lamborghini. So all they're doing is cleaning out the intakes as the 65 Ford is in. Joey has gotten out. Dirk has taken over. Joey Hand and Dirk Mueller, longtime driving partners. Glad to see them back once again in a Ford. This time it's a Ford Mustang. Fuel and 4 tires. Car is already off the air jacks. Just waiting on the driver change to complete. Window net is going up now. Joey reaches behind him, shuts the door very patiently, I have to say. That was somebody who actually loves the car and was giving it that little bit of extra adoration, saying, go out there, go do what you can. Let's see if we can't get a win. Waiting on the fuel. There we go. 35 seconds worth of fuel was all it needed. So it wasn't that thirsty when 40 seconds is the max capacity.
Shea Adam down on the pit lane. We're in the first set of scheduled pit stops, and they are green flag pit stops. Still 2 cars yet to come along the lane. The leader, Madison Snow, 46.4 again last time around. He has been metronomic in his lappery, but at the moment he is losing time to the cars behind him who have changed Michelin rubber. So there's a balance to be had here. He pulled out a wee bit of a lead, but those cars who changed earlier onto Michelin rubber are taking time out of him. What some people call the undercut is just using that new performance potential of those brand new tyres, Jeremy.
Yeah, well, that 46.4, that's the best lap he's turned since a long way back, actually. Lap 17, we just completed 30 laps. So that was the best lap he's turned for a long time. So I think pit stop's coming up pretty soon now for Madison. He's been told to get the giddy up there. If the tyres are still working, go for it. We're, 55 minutes into a stint. Here comes the second place car of, there's another 46.4 there for Madison Snow. So he's up the pace there, about a second a lap faster than he was on the previous lap. So yeah, he's definitely getting ready for a pit stop. We'll see now how long Tommy Milner's pit stop takes.
Well, the 4 Corvette has just been in for full service. Its fuel, tires, windshield tear-off, and Nick Katzberg installed behind the wheel, waiting on the fuel for this one. This car was quite a bit thirstier, and just waiting. There we go. Now Nick fires it back up. I wanted to make sure that it was going to fire back up, and that windshield tear-off that they took off actually wasn't too dirty. So that's Corvette Racing, just taking care of their guys, making sure there's no excuse in the very long driver's handbook of excuses that Nick Katzberg can do for anything but a win.
So now just that BMW getting tremendous fuel mileage from Madison Snow. And they have the smallest fuel capacity of anybody in the field. It's just under 100 litres, 99 litres for that BMW M4 GT3. The Evo version of that car already being developed by BMW M. And we might just see that in a Nürburgring long distance race before the end of the season. We will certainly see it in Dubai in the 24 in the middle of January. Failure to adhere to the minimum full fueling time. The number 65 will have to have a drive-through. Well, there you go. Shea Adams said she didn't think they'd put full fuel in because it was 35 seconds and not 40. They might have been a little bit wrong on that one. And the Corvette going slowly. One of the 2 Corvettes, it's the number 3 car. It's Alexander Sims, who had cycled up into second place. He's on the back straight, and that car is barely rolling. I'm not sure he's got fire in the V8. Oh, what a disaster for Alexander Sims. And for Corvette, that had been going so well. No. He's restarted it. Can't get it out. I don't think he could get it down the gearbox. Now he has. Well, how bizarre. I wonder if it was stuck in a higher gear. Let's see if he comes into the pits. He's got a couple of corners before he heads onto the front straight. Here comes the 65 car into the pit lane. This is Dirk Mueller in the Ford for the drive-through. So 5 seconds or thereabouts short on the fuel. Refueling time. That's cost them considerably more.
Oh, man.
And about a 21-second transit time down the pit lane. Jeremy Shaw.
Yeah.
Oh, here comes the leader.
A costly stop. Madison Snow, brilliant final 3 stints there, all of 46.4 into the pit lane.
It will be full service as Madison is getting out. Brian Sellers is taking over. There's quite a bit of grass in the radiator as well. Wonder where that came from. Very strange. Front tire change on the left-hand side is nearly done. Justin doing a very good job. Richie on the back has actually beat him around the right side of the car as the fuel nozzle is still plugged in. Kevin showing no signs of letting up on that. Waiting for the door to change. There we go. Door closes. Driver change is complete. And all down to Kevin and the refueling. How long does the nozzle stay attached? How much fuel goes into this BMW? And is it enough to make it so that they can get to the end on just one more stop? Now, they've gone longer than anyone else, so they should have the best run of that. This car, which is very economical with its fuel, we've got, there we go, car fires back up. Very frustrating for Brian Sellers that the wheels spin a lot before he can actually get any sort of forward momentum, but they have been passed because Ross Gunn in the Heart of Racing Aston Martin now has the lead of the GTD class. And there goes the 64 of Mike Rockenfeller. I think he's going to get the one as well. Cold tires, remember, no tire warmers in this series.
Yeah, it's going to be very tight indeed. Shea, spot on there. Good spot looking over the pit wall. And the Heart of Racing Aston Martin already going through the left hook and heading up the hill. And that is a significant changeover. Can Brian hold on to second place? He can at the moment as he comes through the left hook. Just installed in that car and has got to go to some pretty heavy defensive work straight away. Now put the car in the middle of the road and get some heat into those Michelin tyres through the snake and into the uphill section. He won't have the grip, but there's no real way to overtake here. It'll be all about the exit from the Oak Tree corner. Comes up to the first part of that now as he car bottoms out through South Bend. Yeah, very sensibly done by Brian Sellers. Just stood up the Mustang number 64 of Mike Rockenfeller in the middle of the corner. Now heading down the back straight, the Mustang just beginning to gain as they come to the first of the rises. Now heading in to the braking area at the top of the roller coaster. Don't think that is going to change. Brian Sellers did a pretty good job there, Jeremy, sorry.
He certainly did, but that early pit stop for number 23 car puts the Heart of Racing Aston into the lead of this race. It was running behind the Corvette number 3, but that's the car that had the problem a couple of laps ago, so it's dropped a long, long way down the order. Meanwhile, Ross Gunn leads this race. Yeah, he loves this track. This track seems to love him. He had all the track records coming into this weekend. He's lost them now, but he'll be looking to get himself in the win column instead. That'll do just nicely for Aston Martin team. But of course, that car was in after 21 laps, which was pretty early, after 37 minutes. So they probably are going to need an extra pit stop.
Yeah, they're already on their 13th lap now, so they are getting on for halfway through the distance they did at the start of the race here. And what we are waiting to find out is whether the new set of tyres that they put on can hang out a little bit longer. Track temperature is moderate, 82 Fahrenheit, which is 28 Celsius. We've had it up in well into triple digits, 115, 116 Fahrenheit, well into the high 40s, mid 40s Celsius. 30 degrees in the air here. That's 86 Fahrenheit. So pleasant afternoon. Not nowhere near as warm as it has been. Humidity sitting where it has been for the last 3 days, round about 50%. So plenty of racing to come here and a full set of stops now completed. Let's have a look at a VP in-race update. Ross Gunn, Heart of Racing team, leads by 10.5 seconds from Brian Sellers in second, but has 13 more laps under his tyres and out of his fuel tank than the BMW number 1 in second. Mike Rockenfeller is third, a second behind the Paul Miller Racing BMW in the first of the Ford Mustangs, the number 64 car. And another problem for Alex Sims in the 3. He's dropped way down to 14th, and again, in exactly the same place on the track, actually, coming out of the Oak Tree corner. Yeah. So something is not right with that car as it comes onto the back straight.
Something wrong with the electronics there, clearly, I think, John. It's just apparently cutting out, really frustrating for Alexander Sims. He'd already fallen down to 14th position, having looked in really, really good shape, so that's really, really annoying for that team. Just go back to the talk about the leaders, though. Those last 3 laps before the pit stop by Madison Snow were pretty special. All of them within a couple of hundredths of a second, and all within a second of his fastest lap of the race, right at the end of a stint. And it was those 3 laps that has enabled him to stay out ahead just of Mike Rockenfeller, who came into the pit lane half a dozen laps earlier, which should have worked out in his favour, but not. The only reason it didn't is because of those 3 super quick laps turned by Madison Snow.
And if I tell you, Jeremy, the answer to your question is that Madison falls between Rossi and Spengler on the list. He is listed as a BMW Works driver. So
fine.
Between Rossi and Spengler is a pretty good place to be. That's just on the alphabetical side of things. Thanks to RTL for that. We were partway through a VP in-race update, giving you the head of the field. Kenton Cook is back at the front of GTD after the pit stop cycle, and he runs 4th in the general classification, or the overall classification. Then it's the GTD Pro number 12, Vassar Sullivan Lexus. Those two having a decent gap. They're about 7 seconds behind the top 3. Zachary Robichon another second further back for Harter Racing number 27, Aston Martin Vantage. 7th is Marvin Kirchhoffer in the Pfaff Motorsport McLaren. It's another half a second back, so the gaps are pretty tight at this part of the field. Corey Lewis is another 3 seconds back in the Proton Competition 55 Mustang. That's the light blue car in 8th. Nicky Katzberg in the best of the Corvettes in 9th. He's another 3/10 further back. That is, by the way, 24 seconds away from the leaders. He's got 2 seconds gap to AO Racing's Porsche, Lauren Heinrich, who, remember, has been down the pit lane twice because they had to do a drive-through for contact, and that is your top 10 VP Racing Fuel in race update. With an hour and 6 minutes gone, just over an hour and a half still to go. Let's call it an hour and 34 minutes. And Ross Gunn leads the motor race. Let's go down to the Heart of Racing team and speak first of all to Alex Riberas.
Alex, it's been a good run for you and Ross. I mean, several podiums over the last couple of races, including the win. Does it feel like maybe the momentum shifted, something clicked in the team after Detroit?
Yeah, I would say for sure everybody at the Heart of Racing and Aston Martin Racing, everybody's doing a phenomenal job. I have to take my hats off to the team. We are maximizing everything we have. I would say the team has been, as you say, on a really good run. I would say overachieving, really, since Detroit. We don't really have like the ultimate pace, but out of every phase of the race, we are executing well. And I think that is what is working for us. It's paying off very, very much at the end of the races.
That early pit stop, I mean, it worked out for you. Was that planned or was that reaction?
No, it was planned. We knew that most of the GTD cars were gonna box right at the minimum driving time of their civil driver. And therefore, we really wanted to maximize the new tire here with the massive tire deck that we have in VIR. We thought that was going to be a good strategy, and so far it's paying off really well. Thankfully as well that Ross is absolutely outstanding, and he's doing a tremendous job out there and did a really good outlap. Obviously we got lucky a little bit with the contact with the 14 and the 77, but that's what we're all about. It's about maximizing and capitalizing on every opportunity.
I'll let you get back to the debrief. Thanks for chatting with us.
Thank you so much.
I think that was a really sensible call. They were a little bit further down the order, Jeremy, than they would have wanted to be. So took the opportunity to get that premium performance out of the new tyre with Ross Gunn behind the wheel. It's worked for them. They're leading the race.
Yeah, absolutely right. Of course, is that going to be costly for them later on in the race? That's the question, because, as I say, they came in with 37 minutes or so. Are they going to? That's well, I guess it's more than that, wasn't it? 45 minutes.
It was 21, end of the 21st lap.
Yeah, it was exactly. It was the 21st lap. Just what time was that? I think it was about 37 minutes it was. So it's tight. They've got to run 2 full hour stints though to get to the end from there. That's what I was trying. That's the point I was trying to make.
Yeah, 35.5 minutes there. The Corvette number 3 has gone back behind the wall and is in the awning in the paddock area. It has been driven there, but clearly a couple of cutouts. Hearing from Shea in the pit lane that the second time it stopped on the back straight, that was to allow Alex to do a full reset, but out of the way. Didn't want to do that in the middle of a corner. That has not cured the problem. They've brought that car into the pit lane. That leaves the Nicky Katzberg driven car, the number 4, in 8th position in the race, 6th in its class. Sitting at the moment behind Anders Fjordbach. He's about to go a lap down to them. That is the 14th position MTK Motorsports machine. 14th in class, that is. At the front of the field, Ross Gunn just getting pulled back a little bit by Brian Sellers. The gap's come down under 10 seconds, not by much under 10 seconds, but it is 9.7 now, and it was 10 point a bit. Mike Rockenfeller not able to stay the pace of the BMW, and as it stands right now, this would put the Harter Racing team at the top of the point scoring in GTD PRO. Long race to go, still an hour and a half, and 1 pit stop for everybody. At least 1 pit stop for everybody. Read my mind, everybody, viewer and listener. Read into my mind about what I was going to say and I'm not going to say about the state of the racing that we've had so far. Yes? Excellent. Then I don't need to say it. I'm not going to tempt the fate. Part of our Porsche keys to the race: prepare for long green runs, particularly on the fuel and tyres side of things. Top 3 are GTD pros.
Yeah, and it's interesting to me, John, to see that Brian Sellers is now sneaking away from Mike Rockenfeller. That's the biggest gap we've seen between those two, what were leaders at any time during this race. Ross Gunn out front, he's maintaining a gap of around about 10 seconds. It's come down by, well, no, it hasn't come down already. It was 10 seconds on lap 34. We just completed lap 39, and it's 9.7. So, a couple of tenths over half a dozen laps, that's nothing at all. But Mike Rockenfeller has now fallen 3 seconds behind Brian Sellers, and at the same time, he is pulling away from Kenton Cook, who leads GTD in the overall ranking 4th position. And Kenton, compared to Mike Rockenfeller, has lost a couple of seconds over the last 4 laps. That's half a second a lap. He is losing to the top 3, but still staying ahead of Jack Hawksworth.
Yeah, he's got 4 laps more on his new tyres than Mike Rockenfeller, considerably more than Brian Sellers, but actually 4 laps fewer than Ross Gunn. Ross Gunn's the furthest through his stint. He's coming on to his 20th lap in that Aston Martin Vantage GT3 Evo. He did 35 minutes. The car did just over 35, coming on to 36 minutes of the first stint with Alex Riberas. And Ross has almost been in the car that amount of time now. They will need to stretch this particular part of the race significantly, unless And hey, maybe they've done the calculation, unless they feel that a 3-stop strategy can work for them. If they can keep the pace up with that tyre degradation that we've heard. It's about how many new tyres you're going to have left, Jeremy, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, look, we've seen drivers that teams try that in the past. If it stays all green, it's unlikely to work out. But as we heard Alex Riberas say, you know, that they don't have the pace here, the front runners, so trying something different is not a bad idea. And if they get a full course caution at the right time, that can absolutely play into their hands, because as you talked about at the very beginning of the show, track position here is really, really important. It's difficult to pass as closely matched as these cars are, as we found with Jack Hawksworth, who's, I think, there's several sort of trains of cars out there.
A couple of penalties to bring you up to date with. First of all, the number 4 Corvette, Nicky Katzberg, has been given a warning for an incident with the number 55 Proton Competition Mustang. I think that just put the Mustang off the road at Oak Tree a couple of 3 laps ago. And a warning a penalty which will result in a drive-through for the Wayne Taylor Racing Lamborghini. It's the car that lost the back end early on, or at least part of the under tray at the back, or at least the bumper cover, should I say, the number 45 Wayne Taylor Racing car. They were refueling while on stands. That's a no-no, and that will have to come through. Shea Adam has been doing some detective work down in the pit lane behind the wall for the number 3 Corvette and Alexander Sims. Shea, what's the problem?
Up into the garage as well. Their biggest issue was that when the engine died, it also cut the power steering. So Alexander Sims, when he did a full reset, power steering did not come back. He did about 7 laps out there with no power steering, which VIR 17 turns. No wonder he looks as hot and sweaty as he does. That's asking a lot of any driver. Now they're working to try and fix the power steering to see if maybe the pump had gone bad, but they don't understand why to begin with that the car lost the engine. So it's not a good day for them, the number 3 crew. Winners, remember, just a couple races ago at CTMP.
Winners in what was almost a perfect weekend. In fact, it may have been Paul fastest lap and the win for the Corvette number 3. Still, that is the nature of motor racing. Jeremy Shaw, who joins me, John Hindhaugh, in the Ford Performance Global Broadcast Centre. Past performance is no guarantee of future results, or taking it another way, one day in the windscreen, one day in the book.
Yeah, that about sums it up, doesn't it? The ups and downs. Talk about motor racing being a big roller coaster. Well, there's a roller coaster here as part of the track names here at VIR. I mean, you get a roller coaster emotions throughout any racing season. That's kind of the norm, isn't it?
Exactly so. I'm impressed by Ross Gunn's lap times in a car that has 2 and a bit times the amount of laps on its Michelin tyres than Brian Sellers has on his, who is chasing him, albeit Brian's been a tiny little bit quicker, but as Jeremy said, it was fractions. But this is really good run by Ross. He's holding that lead at the front of the field at give or take 9.5 to 10.5 seconds, and has done for the last 9 laps since Brian has come back out onto the track. Fastest laps of the race, Laura Spinelli with a 1:44.8 is the fastest overall lap of the race. That's the GTD Lamborghini Huracan number 78, although that car's had 1 or 2 little issues and is sitting down in 18th overall, 10th in class. The fastest of the GTD Pro cars is the leader, the Heart of Racing Aston Martin, on a 1:45.1. Just underlining what we were saying earlier on, the cars have similar performance potential, whether they are GTD or GTD Pro. It is a GTD that has the fastest race lap at the moment, as Lauren Heinrich comes off and peels into the pits after just over 20 laps. What's that, 18, 21, 22 laps for Lauren.
And he was the first car to make a pit stop, the number 77, but that was because the tyre pressures were too low, wasn't it? Because he came in again on lap 25.
Came in after 19 laps, then then did 3 laps, and then has done another 18 laps, so another 21 laps. After that, he cannot get home from here.
Correct. The tyre pressures were too low on that for that first stop, and then he came in to make the driver change, and then did he get a?
He had a drive through for contact.
He did
drive through for contact with Hawksworth. Yeah.
Oh, so that's what the second stop was. Yeah, right. Okay, cool.
Yeah. So that was 21 laps on that second set of Michelin tyres, and with an hour and 21 minutes to go, he can't get that car to the end. So it's not worked out at all for AO Racing, and that has championship implications as that car falls to 8th position in GTD PRO. Only car behind it in the Pro standings, which is where the points will be calculated, is the Corvette, which is behind the wall in the garage area. Heart of Racing, Aston Martin leading, going through NASCAR bend. You can almost just start to see now as Roscoe overtaking the AWA Matthew Bell, and the British driver, driven AWA Chevy Corvette, the 13 yellow and black car. Just start to see that Aston moving around a little more, and Ross having to be very careful with his control inputs, whether it's steering, accelerating or braking. He's on his 24th lap. The longest run we've seen in terms of fuel and tyres was that of Madison Snow, who did 32 laps at the start of the race at an average of 1:46.4.
Came in after 33 laps. Did Madison
yeah,
Snow,
end of the 33rd,
that's the longest stint.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the longest stint. And interestingly, that last lap by Roscoe, 46.7 for him. He was doing 46.4, 46.4, 46.4. Well, each of the last 4 laps within a few hundredths of a second. So just lost a couple of tenths, and that meant it was a slight mistake, or whether the tyres are beginning to lose their edge. We shall find out over the course of the next half dozen laps. But we thought that Madison Snow was losing a bit of speed, didn't we, towards the end of his stint? But then his last 3 laps, he really upped the ante and was able to get back to the same sort of pace he was running much earlier in the race.
So Roscoe of the leaders, the driver has been out there the longest amount of time by a little margin. Just looking at Kenton Cook as well. He was one of the earlier stoppers, as was Jack Hawksworth, the 14 Lexus. Jack hasn't got out of that car yet, neither is Kenton Cook, so those two are yet to do their driver changes as well, which is something to think about. Plenty of time still to do it. It's 45 minutes minimum for the GTD cars, so Kenton's got to get out and give his teammate more than 45 minutes on the clock, just in case we go over the time. It's to the checkered flag, of course, and pit lane time does not count. A couple of more penalties. Tyre operation requirements again, and it is the number 78, which is the Laura Spinelli 40 Racing Lamborghini we were just talking about, and the other one is the number 13, the AWA Matt Bell Corvette. So they will have to come in as soon as possible to change their tyres, stop and repair, failure to adhere to tyre operational requirements. I wonder if this is because the track temperature is so much lower than in the afternoon in qualifying and the FP2.
Could be not building as much temperature as they expected. Yeah, fair comment. It's amazing now. In Laura Spinelli, how many times has he set fastest lap in the race this season? I think it's at least 2. Laura Spinelli. He's had 3 fastest laps he's had in the races this season, and got another one going at the moment. Potentially a fastest lap overall in this race, which would be kind of feather in his cap for sure. But annoying for that team now if they're going to have to serve another penalty.
Yeah. Down the pit lane. Just a drive, a stop and repair, which means all 4 tyres change. So those are the second and third, I think, cars. Certainly the AO was one of them, wasn't it? In fact, is that the second time for the 78? No, it's not. We've only had 2.
Well, it wasn't for a second stop. Was that? But no, that was a penalty. That was a pit equipment or something, wasn't it?
Yeah. It was definitely the 77 came in. The Porsche of AO Racing came in for tyres.
That was the 77
the early one.
And the 34 was the other car that had that
the Conquest.
tyre pressure problem.
Yes.
Yeah, the Conquest.
Correct.
Ferrari.
Yeah. Let's pick up some pit lane news. Shea Adam is following a few stories at the moment. What do you have, Shea?
FAF with their McLaren have an issue with the radio, and Marvin Kirchhoffer is unable to hear anything coming from the box or relay that he is actually hearing. Well, getting the message. They have done the old-fashioned signboard thing. They have a bunch of letters and numbers. They have black tape. They have yellow tape to try and make things disappear into the black background. They have yellow to try and manipulate what the OMP letters already say. And they are telling Marvin, the old-fashioned way, how many laps he has left in his stint. So this is quite old school going on down here for the Canada team.
Well, and you're hauling across the start-finish line, and anywhere where the pit board might be, you get used to doing that in series where you don't have pit lane communication, but here in IMSA, all of the racing from Mazda MX-5 upwards all have pits to car radio, but sometimes you have to fall back on the old ways. The 78 car came in, thanks to RTL. Forgotten to write this down. The 78 Lamborghini came in with Laura Spinelli. It had grass in the radiators, didn't it? Tried it on the back straight and didn't happen. So that was the extra stop for the Forte Racing Lambo. Thank you, RTL. I love collective wisdom. Blurfiend is tuned. Yes. Blurfiend tuned in live. Not at work today in the Porsche workshop. Doing a bit of overtime yesterday, working on a couple of SUVs, I noticed. From the neighbour's pool deck. And listening in, looks like it's nice weather down with you it's Florida, isn't it, for you, Blurfiend? Hope you're fitting well, family's good. Thanks for your support on IMSA Radio and IMSA TV. I'm waving back at you, if only you could see, at IMSA Radio. So, it's like the middle rounds of a heavyweight boxing match here at the moment. We're just waiting for the flurry of potential knockout punches which will come after the last pit stops, we presume. Ross Gunn has eked out to 27 laps and has just lost a second or so as Brian Sellers is close to 8.1 seconds. But we're not talking huge amounts here, Jeremy.
We are certainly not, and 46.6 again last time around for the race leader Ross Gunn in that hard racing Aston Martin, and that's a really good pace for this stage in the race. If I look back to when his pit stop was on lap 21, so he's done 27. If you look back to lap 27 from Madison Snow, he was doing 46.9s then, so he's going quicker than Madison Snow was in the earlier part of his stint. Having said that, of course, Madison Snow picked up the pace right at the end of his stint, so it leads me to believe there was he had a little bit in hand there, but still, he managed that first stint brilliantly, and Ross Gunn appears to be doing the same right here. And Brian Sellers, in the meantime, that gap back to the Ford, when they came out of the pits, well, there was negligible gap. It's now over 5 seconds between second and third, number 1 car and number 64.
Nice little battle going on for 13th, 14th and 15th overall. That's 6th, 7th and 8th in GTD. That being the green and yellow Adam Adelson driven Wright Motorsports Porsche with Parker Thompson in the number 12, Vassar Sullivan, and Phil Ellis for Winward Racing. Now, Winward Racing, the championship leaders, of course, coming into this weekend by a handy cushion.
Yeah, that's a great point, John, because Adam Adelson, of course, he's driving the middle stint here for Elliott Skier, running in 6th place in GTD. He's done a really, really nice job. You know, he's the AM in the Pro-Am, if you like, but he's really holding his position here very, very well, losing a little bit of ground to the car ahead of him, which was Freddie Shandorf. We had to find a way past him, but he's now been caught by both Parker Thompson and Phil Ellis. But it's been an excellent stint for Adam, and he will be handing over to Elliott Skier for the final hour or so of this race. So another maybe 10-15 minutes that Adam will be driving that car, and it'll be Elliott until the end, I presume.
Ross Gunn has got to get as close as he can to the hour remaining mark. 10 minutes to go. That's what, 6-7 laps. And at the moment he's on 28. Madison did 32. Madison snowing that Paul Miller racing machine early on. Russell would have been employing a bit of lift and coast from very early on, and the gap is coming down. Brian Sellers has only completed 16, make that 17 laps as he's just gone across the line actually, on his Michelin tyres and VP racing fuel. So there's an advantage in terms of how far Brian can go into the race, and therefore the amount of time he'll have to be stationary to get to the end of the race on fuel. We already know that BMW has the smallest tank, or the smallest fuel allowance actually, at 99 litres, and it's clearly sipping rather than slurping the VP racing fuel. So at the moment, advantage to the car that was on pole position. We also know that it's got 1 lap pace. Brian Sellers, known for his smooth driving style, will be taking as little out of the Michelins as he can to get that car to the end of the race. Meantime, Klaus Bachler on the other side of things. Actually, it's Lauren Heinrich in that car now. Absolutely hammering the AO Racing Porsche, as Lauren will be taking that car to the end of the race. Again, that car slightly off strategy because of the penalty for low tyre pressures that brought them in earlier on. Another South African listening in, Tian Erasmus from Pretoria. Hello, mate. Hope you've got something, or you've had something decent on the braai this afternoon, and you're enjoying what's going on. Nicky Katzberg driving the number 4 Corvette in 7th position at the moment, with Zachary Robichon in 6th ahead of him. That's not a class battle, but it is an overall battle. More importantly, it would give the Pratt Miller Corvette racing driver access to a class position, because just ahead of Zachary Robichon, the 2nd place GTD, as they go into the horseshoe at turn 1, that 180-degree right-hander, is the number 14 Vassar Sullivan Lexus GTD Pro car. Jack Hawksworth driving that car. That is 4th position. Nicky Katzberg currently, at 1 car's remove, is in 5th in that class. So a couple of little battles that are breaking out now, coming into, we're not quite in the window for the final stop, but we're getting close to it. And we said in our Porsche Keys to the Race, you are racing everyone, and this is what we meant by that. 3 GTD Pros, the GTD leader, GTD Pro, GTD second, 3 GTD Pros, and then 3rd down to 9th in GTD. That is the mix in the top 16 as they run at the moment, and the top 17 cars are all still on the lead lap. Just waiting to see if the Conquest car is still on the lead lap. I think they've dropped off it. Now it looks like we may be getting a second Corvette back into the fight as they are heading to the pit access road. They're being held before they come in, and now told to turn hard right and into the pit lane before they rejoin the track. So this will be Alexander Sims bringing this car on to pit lane. So Shea, that car should stop with you, shouldn't it, before it goes back out?
It is. It's stopping in its box now. Alexander will get another splash of fuel. It shouldn't be that much since he was only out there for about 10 laps before the car finally decided no more, and the driver begged the crew to please don't make him drive around here without power steering. I feel so much for Alexander's arms. They had to be jello after that. Now the fuel nozzle comes out, refire the car. Nice exit from the pit lane. Just one other quick update on the FAF McLaren. When they come in, they are going to do a driver change. They're worried that it might have something to do with Marvin Kirchhoffer's earplugs, or they want to see if maybe changing the driver, changing the helmet, makes it so that they have radio communication once again. So Ollie Jarvis will be taking the number 9 to the checkered flag.
Well, it's not exactly downgrading that to put that in. A little bit of tape flapping from the front of the number 66. That's the Stephen McAleer driven Gradient Racing Acura NSX GT3. I don't think it's stopping that car moving forward. He's in that little battle now that is Adam Adelson, Phil Ellis, Stephen McAleer, and Parker Thompson's just on the back of that as well. I think McAleer's just got back past Thompson actually in that line of 4 cars.
Yeah, that's right. McAleer's just overtaken number 12 car, Parker Thompson. You're absolutely right. Last time round, you say they caught that train of cars behind Adam Adelson, who's really doing an excellent job. He should be proud of him. Yeah, we've heard it, several drivers talk about track position.
Yeah, absolutely crucial. The track position, even in this middle stage of the race. 17 cars, as we mentioned, still on the lead lap. Ross Gunn's doing a great job as well. Now on the same amount of laps that Madison Snow eked out of his first tank of VP Racing fuel. Remember, there was a couple of formation laps on that as well. But this is great stuff, and he's held that lead. It's just over 10 seconds, about 10.5, 10.8, I think, when they came out of the pits. It's 7.5 now. So a bit of soft pedaling, bit of fuel saving and tyre saving by the leader. Well, what a drive this has been by Ross Gunn, and he's nearly at the hour mark. He's got 4 minutes to go to the hour.
Yeah, so, I mean, he came in with 2 hours and 3 minutes remaining. It's now 1 hour and 3 minutes remaining. So I would expect to see that Aston on pit lane in the next couple of laps, certainly. And we're looking at number 65 for. That's the car that had the drive-through penalty for the. Was that tyre pressures, or was that tyre pressures? No, it's short fueling.
It was the short fueling.
It was too quick on the fueling. That car has made up that ground and now caught up to that train of cars, led still by Kenton. Well, actually, Kenton Cook's pulled away a bit from Jack Hawksworth the last couple of laps, and it's Hawksworth now leads that train. Behind him is the second place GTD car, that's Zachary Robichaud, and then the 3 pro cars, Nicky Katzberg, Marvin Kirchhoffer, and Dirk Müller. And Nicky Katzberg, by the way, got past the McLaren of Kirchhoffer about 3 laps ago to move up into 7th position overall.
And crucially, 5th position in GTD Pro. I think to be safe, 2 or 3 more laps. There's 1 hour and 2 minutes to go, and Shea Adam is watching. She's very good at body language. Shea Adam, who's getting ready? Who's looking twitchy? Who's staring at their feet and not wanting to look you in the eye?
Inception already twitched. They brought in the number 70, Frederick Shandor, staying aboard. He is getting a new drinks bottle, fuel, and 4 new Michelin tires. But the reason that I maybe posed that little question on Talk Back to you, John, about if we're okay, was because I'm seeing Pfaff. They just held out the pit now driver change sign for Marvin Kirchhoffer. So both of the McLarens in this time. One more lap for Pfaff than Inception, but that is critical to make it to the end of the race.
Who was the first one you were talking about there, Shea? Sorry, just lost the
Inception Racing.
Your report. Say again?
It was Inception Racing with the number 70, fuel, tires, and drinks bottle for Marvin Kirchhoffer. For Frederick Shandorf. Now into the pit lane comes the leader, the number 23, Ross Gunn. Alex Riberas told me he was not going to be getting back in this car, so Ross should be staying aboard. Fuel and new, lightly scuffed Michelin tires going on to the 23 Aston Martin. Also into the pit lane, the number 64, Mike Rockenfeller, bringing the Ford Mustang in for Ford Multimatic Motorsport. Let's see, are they going to do sticker tires? Oh yeah, they got stickers on them. So lightly scuffed off stickers, actually. So interesting. Scuffed rubber for both of the 2 cars coming in from the front so far. We're waiting on Kirchhoffer to come in and hand over to Ollie Jarvis. We have a Corvette on the lane. That is the number 4 Corvette. It is Nick Katzberg staying aboard. Fuel and brand new sticker Michelin tires for that car. 65 Ford Mustang is also in. Dirk Mueller staying aboard. Again, scuffed Michelin. Are they scuffed or are they shiny for Pfaff? They look pretty shiny for Pfaff. So interesting how we've split the strategies for it, what kind of tire you're going to put on your car for this final stint. First car back out and moving. Beautiful pit stop by the 64 crew. They get out way ahead of everybody else. And also up on the wall, Madison Snow will be getting back into the number 1 Paul Miller Racing BMW. So Brian getting an easier day today. As into the pit lane comes one of the Lexuses. It is the number 12. So Parker Thompson, fuel and tires. Those are new Michelin tires up on the wall for Parker.
One of our listeners collective, eagle-eyed early on, spotted a little bit of damage to the left-hand side of the Heart of Racing Aston's diffuser, just underneath where it says 23 on the back of the car. The yellow line doesn't quite line up, and now I've finally been able to see from the back of the car that that is just a tiny bit of damage. Now, meantime, in the pit lane, another Corvette problem. Nicky Katzberg has not pulled away. Shea Adam.
No, he hasn't. They completed the service on the car. Now they are going to an IMSA official, asking permission to push the car back behind the wall. This is disaster for the Ford Corvette. Nick Katzberg is still behind the wheel. That's the sound of the Lexus. There is no life to be heard from the Ford Corvette. All of the power was on. They did a full recycle. There we go. All right, Nicky got it fired up again after getting pushed by 4 mechanics. The driver change is complete for the number 1 Paul Miller Racing BMW. Fuel and sticker tires, just waiting on the fuel. Kevin is attached. We've also got more GTD callers. This is the number 32 KPM Mercedes. This is Kenton Cook finally getting out of that car, as it is now Mick Grenier in for the end. Fuel and new tires. Fuel and new tires for Corey Lewis, who is staying aboard the pole-sitting number 55 Proton Competition Mustang. And we've got the 14 Vassar Sullivan Lexus in. It is no longer Jack Hawksworth. It is now Ben Barnicat to the end. So will that be an advantage for the 14 Lexus, that they have a fresher driver to go out and fight against guys who have already done a few stints, i.e. Ross Gunn and Madison Snow? Let's see what happens with them waiting on the fueling. Otherwise, their stop has been perfect. We've also got Roman DeAngelis up on the wall for Heart of Racing in the number 27, meaning Zachary Robichon should be coming to see me here very soon, and he will be staying in the pit lane. And also in the pits, the number 120 Porsche for Wright Motorsport. Adam Adelson has done a great job for this middle stint, and now it is back to Elliot's gear for the end of the race. Into the pit lane, Phil Ellis, sticker tires for Philip and the Mercedes of Winward Racing that came into this race and will leave the race leading the championship, because even minimum place points still gives them a gap over second place Turner Motorsport. And Stephen McAleer is in. Fuel and tires for Stephen in the Gradient Racing Acura.
And a turnaround at the head of the field, courtesy of the quicker pit stop for Paul Miller Racing. They needed to put less VP Racing fuel into the number 1 car. Madison Snow in that car, and fuel to the end was 7.5 seconds behind. And as the pit stops have been traded with the Heart of Racing number 23 car, as their sister car comes into the pits, the 27 of Zachary Robichon, which had taken over the lead, it's 1.7 seconds advantage. So that was a good 10 seconds, Jeremy, made up on the pit lane, purely because they did not need as much VP racing fuel to get to the end of the race.
Yeah, you know, strategy is so important. Here's the new race leader. Zachary Robichon brings the number 27 car into the pit lane. Roman DeAngelis will take over from here. And it's been an excellent run also for Zachary. He was holding the pace there with Jack Hawksworth all the way through his stint.
Really good pit stop by the guys from Paul Miller Racing. They still did a 4-tyre stop, by the way, and a driver change with Brian Sellers getting out. They turned that car around quick enough to get it out without the Heart of Racing team being anywhere near it as it came through. As Roman DeAngelis takes over the second of the Heart of Racing cars. Now, where's that compared to Mick Grenier? I think they might have just nicked the lead there from the court of Preston Mercedes. Meantime, bad news for Acura and for the JW Wentworth machine, the gradient machine. Shea, Adam, what's the problem with the 66 car?
I'm walking out of their pit box now, but Stephen McAleer with sticker tires made that hard right-hand turn, went behind the wall.
And as we mentioned, I think we've got the Alexander Sims Corvette Racing car back. It took a splash of fuel and it's done a couple of laps now. Oh my goodness, this is huge at the front of the field. The first mistake from one of the leading teams, Heart of Racing Aston Martin. Minimal fuel refueling time. Penalty for the 23. It will be a drive-through. Ford will go through into second and AO Racing into third. That's huge for the championship. Absolutely massive for the GTD Pro Championship. With 55 minutes to go, well, Ross Gunn, just a drive-through, but he can't now fuel save. He will have to attack and try and make those positions back, Jeremy Shaw.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to need to fuel save now. He's, you know, they came in at the earliest opportunity on their first pit stop, and yeah, I think that the track has kind of rubbed it in. Tire degradation is not as bad, I think, as most of the teams expected, and that certainly paid out. You know, they planned on that being the case. More rubber laid down, let the tires slide a little bit less. They get used up a little bit less, and the tires still have good pace toward the end of a stint. That's what the Aston Martin team was banking on, but that short pit stop, it's got to be timed. There's fuel flow readers on all of these pit stands, and they know exactly how much fuel is going in. They also know how long it takes to refuel the cars. All that data is transferred in real time to IMSA, and when a red flag comes up on the screen, then it's costly. There will be a pit stop right away.
Gradient Racing, they think the issue is a broken toe link. They've taken the car back to the garage. They're going to try and get it fixed, but at this point, there's no benefit to them getting it fixed.
And working on the car whilst refueling for that number 66 machine. So that'll be a drive-through if they do come back from behind the wall for Stephen McAleer and the Gradient Acura NSX. They are moving to a Ford Mustang GT3 for next year. The NSX, the Evo version of the NSX, not in the first flush of youth. It's homologated for a couple of years, I think, till 26 or 27 from memory. But the Andres Levens talking to us on Midweek Motorsport a couple of weeks ago and explaining that they wanted one of the cars that was in the early part of its development. They feel they're ready for that now with that team. Also going to be running Mustang Challenge cars as well. have already been helping out one or two teams in the Mustang Challenge, and they are looking to make the move, their next move in the development of that team, which has been around in one guise or another for just over a decade now, maybe a little bit more. Andres and the team very hard working indeed. So just a tiny bit of damage on the diffuser, the piece of the bodywork underneath the rear bumper. It's the second element from the left on the back of that number 23 Aston Martin. However, they will have to come into the pit lane. They've gone past again. They're allowed to go past 3 times, and they will undoubtedly be talking to IMSA. It's pretty much a slam dunk, I would have thought, if it's a timing issue on the pit stop. They did need a full fuel fill, so I can't imagine any talking to IMSA either in the pit lane or in any of the other capacities. Pardon the pun, when we're talking about a fuel fill infraction. Can't imagine it will have any great effect on that. Wait for that car to come in. It's going to drop them at, I think, a couple of places back. And as I say, in championship terms, that is a benefit to the AO Racing Porsche, the number 77 Lauren Heinrich car, who've had their own issues, fallen foul of the regulations, including a drive-through for contact and minimum fuel pressure. They have to change their tyres rather earlier than they expected, but at the moment still sitting in 4th in GTD PRO and in the overall, and that is likely to get a wee bit better when that Heart of Racing Aston comes in. Inside the last 50 minutes of the race, we've got Michelin post-race tech after the checkered flag, exclusively live on IMSA Radio RS2. Stay with us for that, even if you're tuning away from our international world feed TV. That you can mould that programme by dropping your thoughts, observations, points arising, questions, rants, if you wish. Hashtag Michelin PRT, and that is to @IMSA Radio. So the Heart of Racing number 23 Aston has done the drive-through, and just waiting to see where the Lauren Heinrich car is on the circuit. Come out behind Mike Rockefeller. Oh, I think they've only dropped 1 place, Jeremy. I think they've only dropped down to 3rd, so they're still ahead of AO Racing, their championship rivals.
Yeah, I think they were 24 seconds ahead of it, so that, yeah, they might have done. But I think they're still going to need the number 77 car. I think they're going to need another pit stop in any case. But it's been a brilliant race for the number 23 team. They've called it an absolutely superb strategy, and it certainly seems to be playing in their favour because they are able to run very consistent laps all the way through their stints.
And it's got
Shea Adam, by the way. Yeah,
go ahead, Jeremy, very quickly.
No, well, very quickly. Number 14 car lost a lot of ground during that round of pit stops. Came in 5th position, has left in 10th.
That's the Ben Barnicat-driven Vassar Sullivan Lexus now at 7th in GTD Pro, as Jeremy says, 10th overall. Down to the blue oval, Harry Tinknell, a rookie, first time at this circuit, you should say that, is with Shea Adam.
Harry, you had a great start out there. Did you enjoy racing in VIR?
Yeah, absolutely. It was pretty awesome, you know. Tony and I had a little ding-dong yesterday qualifying, so I was sort of determined to try and pass him at the start, and yeah, it was into turn 1, you know, obviously it's slight advantage being on the right-hand side, and managed to get that done, and then from there it was kind of settling down into the rhythm. Got close to the BMW quite a few times, but didn't quite have the pace to pass, and you know, the team on the radio were telling me just, you know, long race, conservative, you know, think about the end, think about handing the car over to Mike in a good spot, and we came in P2. It's kind of jumped around a little bit in the pits, but we're back in 2nd now after that penalty for the Aston. their pace honestly was strong with Ross, and it's obviously Alex had a great first one as well. So let's see at the end if that becomes a big battle for the second spot on the podium. I think BMW is slightly out of reach right now, and probably need the yellow to try and catch them.
Good luck the rest of the way.
Thank you, we'll do our best.
Harry Tinknell in the pit lane with Shea Adam, and more dramas for the other big American manufacturer here, Corvette, and the bow tie. Well, bow tie has come unravelled a little bit today, hasn't it, with problems for both the 3 and the 4 car. Power steering and engine cutout issues for the number 3 Corvette under the guidance of Alexander Sims. He can't turn that car. I think he's lost the power steering again. He's off the track again, even at very slow speed. I think he's just keeping out the way of everybody at the South Bend. And he'd gone off at the left hook, I think, and he's just trying to get that car back. It's already been behind the wall once. The second car, Nicky Katzberg, that car didn't want to restart. And again, coming out of the Oak Tree corner, he's gone to the right-hand side of the long back straight and just keeping himself out of the way. In for the final time, Lauren Heinrich. We knew that that car did need extra fuel, and with 45 minutes remaining, here is one of the championship contenders into the pit lane in front of Shea Adam.
And it should be a relatively quick stop because they would need less fuel, having been in not too long ago. But let's see if they do decide. Yep, all 4 tires are being changed. They are scrubbed Michelin rubbers, so we'll see how that plays out. It seems to have been fairly even across the board for the ones who did scrub rubber and the ones who did new rubber, so not seeing too much of a difference from that. But now the fueling is done, and Morin sends it.
The minimum fuel time infraction, this time for the MDK Motorsport number 86 Porsche. Looks like they are already coming in to answer that. Also heading pit bound as they exit Hog Pen, turn 17, Alexander Sims. We have a single nomination from our broadcast crew for the BDO Nose Strategy Award. A couple of people at the front of the field who've done a pretty good job. Heart of Racing, definitely, from a lowlier than they would have wanted pit grid start. Rather blotted their copy boot with a pit lane error. Court of Preston Motorsport have done a good job. Pass early on, and they've executed. Also, the Heart of Racing 27 Aston have done a good job keeping them in it.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, they're right there, John. That number 27 car, Michael Grenier, he's got 1 car in between those 2 GTD leaders. That's Oliver Jarvis in the McLaren. But if Roman De Andres can find a way past the McLaren, then I think he can definitely take the fight to Michael Grenier. They've been running very similar lap times all the way through this race.
Now, this might be a separate issue for the Corvette that is in the pit lane at the moment. Shea Adam is watching.
Left front suspension is dangling at an angle that it should not be at. Hollywood was actually able to move it by hand. The crew chief for the number 3 Corvette, I should say, Brian Hoy. He was able to actually lift up the entire cluster, and normally you shouldn't be able to do that with the end of the axle in effect and the brake rotor and everything. And he was able to move it at will, so that's not exactly a good thing. But now the problem is, how do they get the car back to the garage? Because there are a couple of very difficult right-hand turns. That's not going to be the work of a moment for Alexander Sims, the poor guy whose arms are already a little bit raw after doing so many laps without power steering.
Shea, stay on the line here. Brian D,
Okay.
who is in Hot, Kentucky, as he said at the moment. He said, I'm not sure I really understand the fuel time penalties. Do you have to stop for the full 40 seconds regardless of how much fuel you're putting in?
No, it's a refilling rate. So basically every car has a different amount of fuel that they can take on board based on the BOP. That's one of the things that IMSA mandates. make it so that every car for a full fuel load has to be stationary in their box for 40 seconds, 40 seconds. So if you are below the refueling rate, that means that the fuel is flowing into your car at a faster rate than allowed, i.e. the number that it would take for you to fill the tank fully in that 40-second period. This is not a number that changes on a regular basis, and for many of the cars that are getting the penalties, the fact that it's many different manufacturers lets you know that it is not just one car whose BOP changed that other people might have missed the memo on. This is also something that teams really diligently check in practice. They will do several fuel drops where they will do a full load on a stopwatch, and they'll have multiple stopwatches to tell them how much time it took, and IMSA provides the information online as well. In other words, there's no excuse for getting this wrong.
Yeah, and Shay's made a good point there, Brian, that makes it even very nicely explained by Shay Adam as ever, which is why I threw it to her. She makes a good point, Brian, and thank you for your question, is that not all cars are getting the same amount of fuel in the same 40 seconds. If we're going from empty to full in 40 seconds, for some cars like the BMW, their tank is only 99 litres, so there's no point in it being any more than that, so that'll be 99 litres in 40 seconds. For the Mercedes, I think it's 108 or 110. Let's say it's 110. Well, they'll get 110 in the 40 seconds. It is it's not about necessarily one engine being more efficient than another engine in the field. It's about how efficiently you use the fuel that you are allowed. So if you fuel save because you've got a more efficient engine, then everybody would just swap to that car because it's got a most fuel efficient engine. This is a way of balancing that out. So if you've got a car that is particularly thirsty and uses 120 litres over the stint of fuel, then that would fill at 120 litres in 40 seconds. So I hope that kind of helps it out. If you only put half a tank in, then you only need to be standing for 20 seconds. It's pro rata to what your fuel drop is, effectively. Brian, thank you for that. Really good question at IMSA Radio. And don't forget our post-race tech, hashtag Michelin PRT, for the end of the race. Track temperature has gone up significantly. If you remember, we were talking about it being fairly moderate in the mid-80s Fahrenheit, now up to 104 degrees on track. That's 40 Celsius. So the last hour or so of this race, that's 40 minutes of this race. This is where that tyre management that we talked about in Porsche Keys to the Race, in the Michelin Countdown to Green, Jeremy, this is going to be crucial in the last stanza of this race, because we have seen performance drop off, of course we have, with this highly abrasive track and with the track temperature getting hotter. That's going to make things even worse.
Yeah, but you look, the first lap out of the pits, first flying lap for Madison Snow in the stint, he turned a 1 minute 46.91. His last lap was a 47.02. He's just come across the line again, 47.266. So 2 or 3 tenths of a second. That's pretty remarkable. Last lap around, by the way, a very quick lap there for both Mike Rockefeller and Ross Gunn, significantly quicker. Yeah, you've got to look after your tyres. You have to be careful. We heard somebody talk about it earlier on. Not push too hard too soon on a stint. Just bring them in as gradually as you can. Don't put them under too much stress very early in their life.
I think it was Ken Cook in the Countdown to Green who was talking about that. Jeremy Shaw, John Hindorf in the Ford Performance Global Broadcast Centre. Shay Adam. Now, Shay is staring at, I know exactly what she's doing now. She's walking up and down the pit lane, staring at people to see if anybody is looking worried about anything, whether it's fuel or tyres, or the driver complaining about an issue with the car. BDO Nose Strategy Award, we'll get that in before the end of the race and before we go to Michelin post-race tech opportunity now before anything breaks out for us to say thank you very much indeed to all of our technical staff who've been with us since the early part of the week. Those on-site laying cables and fibre, assembling cameras are awesome, hard-working camera operators and tech crew, both from NASCAR Productions and the IMSA technical crew on the Alpha truck. Thank you, one and all. Up in Concord, really fine work this weekend there as well. Inception Racing going slowly at the moment from the Oak Tree corner. Now has Fred Chandorf dropped that car off the circuit. Let's pick him up and see what his lap times are like at the front of the field. Madison Snow's 14-second lead is being chipped away at by Mike Rockenfeller. Half a second or so last time around. Let's have a listen to the McLaren's engine. Oh, he's shifting up early. They have got a problem. The 70 Inception McLaren, I think, will be coming to pit lane this time. No, he stays out. That doesn't sound like he wants to rev, that McLaren. That is really slow. They may be just running some data to find out what's the problem with that McLaren. That Shea Adam, 2 McLaren issues. We had one with the FAF car early on as well.
And doing the driver change solved that problem for FAF Motorsports. So the good news is Ollie Jarvis can hear them. He can talk to the team. So whatever it was something plaguing Marvin Kirchhoffer's radio communication and not the FAF McLaren itself.
I'm not sure that plugging and unplugging anything's going to help that Inception car. That sounded unhappy, to say the very least, and the lap time for that number 70 car was well off kilter. 2 minutes 22 when it's done a 144. When it's done a, sorry, where's he gone? 222 when he's done a 145. Yes, I was in the right ballpark there, Jeremy.
You were, John, yeah, because it had been circulating with the 78 Forte Racing Lamborghini, which just went past.
Oh, the engine's gone.
There's the problem.
It's gone. It done blowed up, and that is putting all kinds of debris down onto the track. And here comes the leader right behind it, Madison Snow. That car needs to be off the track. Full course yellow with 34 minutes to go. Oh, that is poor driving by Fred Chandorf. He's pulled into the pit lane. He should have been off the track a long time before that. Now, hearing on the pit radio that he asked to come to pit lane at the end of the last lap and the team told him to stay out. They may well rue that. Chandorf out of the car. Well, that is the last race for them with that car. As they're changing manufacturers to a Ferrari next time around. Oh my goodness me. I take back that then, what I said about Fred. Although when he was smoking so much, it would have been better for him to be on the grass. But for the team to tell him to stay out.
Yeah, look, it was apparent there was an engine problem on that car. He knows where, he should know where the orange safety areas are on this racetrack to pull that car out of the way, out of harm's way, and get to a fire station. So, either he didn't do his homework or he's not paying attention, or both.
He's been here before as well, Jeremy. He's not a first-timer at this track, so he should know where those overlaps are.
Yeah. So, well, that's going to make things interesting. And, I was just about to say, really, that, Madison Snow, you pointed out that Madison Snow was losing a little bit of ground to Mike Rockenfeller and the Aston Martin. They're all kind of closing up those 3 cars a little bit. Over the last 6 laps, the Aston had pulled 2 seconds closer to the Ford, and the Ford had closed about 3 seconds closer to the BMW. But I reckon, given his first stint of the race, of course, because Madison Snow has driven the first and the last stints, Brian Sellers just doing the middle one, that he was probably just pacing himself in case there's a full course caution.
Well, that's going to, yeah, Jeremy, you're right. It's going to close them right up. Fred Schandorf just getting back into the McLaren to select neutral. So now the question is, who has the tyres, who has the performance for what might be a 25-minute run to the flag? Car 66 entered a closed pit. Well, that's because it came from the paddock, so it could not. I understand why that's popped up on the race control screen. That's a vagary, Shay Adam, of VIR and where the pit lane entry markers are.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that this track has that's a bit different from others. You rejoin or you come into the pit lane from the racetrack. You have to actually go back out, and you're on it for a very short amount of time, 100 feet at the most. But you do trigger the pit in sensor, and when the pits are closed and a car comes into the pits, it automatically pops up in race control, a nice little meal ticket style of a penalty saying, hey, this car came into a closed pit. Well, yeah, Stephen McClure didn't have an option, because if he'd gone straight back out onto the racetrack, that would have been a much worse penalty. This, not so much a penalty, just a alert that this happened.
Yeah, and there's actually two track workers standing there with an octagonal red and white stop sign, just to remind people they stop them before they come onto that area, and they're pointing to the driver's right to remind them to turn right. But they're actually driving onto the active track at that point, and as Shay says, the pit lane speed limiter sign is maybe 100 feet, if that, down to their right-hand side. Now the IMSA race control will have a bit of sweeping done offline, and they'll be making sure that there's no essential fluids from the McLaren on the circuit. That, I think, might have started a very long way further back around. That might have started the lap before for Fred Schandorf, and he clearly knew there was something wrong with that car. I was surprised when he didn't come in the pit lane, because it sounded like a bag of nails, and McLaren engines don't. Actually, McLaren engines, even on the pit lane speed limit, this pit lane speed limiter, which normally most engines sound horrible on, they normally sound all right on that as well. Well, stand by. I don't think anybody will come to the pit lane. Shay Adam is down there. You're seeing anybody that's looking like they might be getting ready for a quick bit of service and maybe a last throw of the dice?
Pit close lights are still on, so nobody's come in this time around. Who just got up and grabbed their refueler? The number 34 from Conquest Racing. Nope, they were just repositioning it. Who's all the way down? That would be the 86 from MDK. They look like they're playing with the air hose, so maybe there's a possibility of them coming in. Let me walk out into the fast area, because all the cars are on the other side of the racetrack. And nobody coming in from the GTD Pro cars.
Okay, thank you, Shay. Just wondered if anybody maybe who was a little bit further down might give it a spin, particularly if they think they had a quick car. Somebody like Forte Racing in the Lamborghini, that car is quick, has the fastest lap of the race, but they've been plagued by having to come down the pit lane rather too many times for answering the call of penalties. Now, if I am Madison Snow or Mick Grenier, I'm now saying, there's loads of oil on the track. That's going to need cleaning up.
Yeah, but we did see the track sweeper out there, John, didn't we? So I think IMSA is going to take the opportunity to get some of the debris off the off racing line, so to speak. While we've got this caution period, it's not affecting anything. If we can make it a cleaner racetrack, I'm all for that, as long as it doesn't take too much time. Look, the guys, what do we hear? Harry Ticknell tell us what, half an hour to go? What was he telling Shea Adam? They probably need a yellow to get back into this picture. Well, they've got that yellow, and it's going to be really interesting now to see what Rocky can do against Madison Snow. Or ditto, Ross Gunn and Dirk Mueller. And the other guy to keep an eye on is Corey Lewis in the other Ford. He'd been closing in on that the battle ahead of him, which was the GTD leader, number 32, Michael Grenier. Then there was a pro car of Oliver Jarvis. Then Roman DeAndres, who's second in GTD. He was closing in on that trainer cars by, it was only about 1/10 of a second a lap, but the gap was 6 seconds, and it came down to less than, it was 3 seconds, and it came down to nothing just before the caution period came out over the course of about half a dozen laps. So he was pulling them in a 1/10 or 2 or 3 per lap. So the number 55 car is looking very, very strong as well. All the Fords are looking strong. And the good news for Michael Grenier is that he's got the pro car of Oliver Jarvis right behind him. And he's running, Jarvis is running 5th in GTD Pro and 6th place overall.
Pits will be open for everybody this time around, and I don't think it'll be very long before we go back to green flag racing. I think it's very sensible by race control with just over half an hour to go when we went full course yellow, just to make sure that there wasn't anything on the track that could cause any issues, particularly at that sharp end, at the top end of the track. That's a very quick area, changing direction a couple of 3 times, and you don't want people spearing off into the scenery there. It's one of the places where there isn't a lot of runoff here, unusually. So checking the track surface, I think very smart indeed. So now, Matt Bell, who's the last car, I reckon, on the lead lap for AWA, and the number 13 Corvette, is coming into the pit lane for, a full fuel. So he might have been a little bit short on fuel, but he's going to get a replacement set of tyres. Shea Adam was closer to that than I was. I don't think they were brand new tyres though, Shea. They just looked slightly less used than the Michelins that came off.
Yeah, they're slightly loved tires, but they might have been the mock quali tires actually at one point. But yeah, definitely not stickers, and definitely not with a whole lot of life left in them. But they're probably hoping that they're a little bit nicer for Matt to drive for the last 20-something minutes of this race.
Yeah, might have repressured them as well, actually, given that the track temperature is now 113 Fahrenheit. So with a different set of pressures on there, we're getting much more towards where we were for qualifying and for the second session. Now, there'll be no final wave by. We won't have a class split. We will come back to green. And the mouth-watering prospect, dear viewer and listener, of the following: Madison Snow in a BMW, which has been the fastest car over a short distance and pretty quick over a longer run as well. New qualifying lap record, I should mention, for Madison, who did qualify that car. Behind him, directly behind him, Mike Rockenfeller. Never a slow driver, Mike, in the resurgent Ford Multimatic Mustang GT3, or at least a car that is beginning to find its pace, still in its early development, the number 64. Heart of Racing Aston Martin, with a championship on its mind. Ross Gunn, though, is never backwards and coming forwards. And that is the car that has the fastest GTD Pro lap of the race. Behind that, Dirk Muller, who, again, is not really a shy and retiring wallflower when it comes to getting his elbows out and going for a podium or better. That's another Ford Mustang GT. And then the GTD leader, the Mercedes-AMG GT3 of Michael Grenier. And then Ollie Jarvis, not long into that car, remember, and did get a new set of tyres. So his tyres are a little bit newer than the cars ahead of him in that McLaren number 9 from Pfaff Motorsport. In the top 10, Roman De Angelis with another Aston Martin. He's quick. Corey Lewis for Mustang. That's quick. And in 9th position, the Vassar Sullivan Lexus. Ooh, they're quick. Oh, Turner Motorsport, Robbie Foley makes up the top 10 Is it going to be another tackle weekend for Will Turner and the crew? We have 22.5 minutes to find out. It's going to be round about 15 or 16 laps, and Madison Snow jumps away, and immediately behind the side-by-side action, Dirk Muller and Ross Gunn come together before they've even got to the line, but that's all right. You're allowed to race from the drop of the green on a restart, and that has helped Madison Snow pull away. Mike Rockefeller's gone with him. Just hanging on to third position is Ross Gunn. He was passed at the line, actually, and the Dirk Muller Multimatic Ford Mustang was scored in third, but Ross is back up there now. Here comes the Roman DeAngelis driven Heart of Racing Aston as well through the field. The leaders are clearing off. There's all kind of scraps going on behind. Take a deep breath, everybody. It might be the last one you get in the next 22 minutes. Jeremy Shaw, good restart from Madison Snow. He's not done much wrong this weekend, has he?
He has not. He's been absolutely superb. This is why he's a BMW factory driver these days, and he is absolutely repaying the faith that's been shown in him by the factory, by Paul Miller in particular, who's, I mean, it was last year. He's still eligible, or was eligible, to be running in GTD again, having won the championship, dominated the championship last year with Brian Sellers, but they elected to move on up to GTD Pro because they thought they belonged. Boy, do they belong. They're looking for their first pro victory this weekend, but they're also looking for their second win in a row in successive seasons here, having won the race in GTD 1 year ago.
Yeah, Madison up to gold, so they're both gold drivers now since Madison's been taken on as a BMW factory driver. So
true that, but when they made a decision, he was still eligible.
Correct.
Yeah,
yes, he was still silver at that point. May have known it was coming down the pipe.
Yeah,
in
well, that's
fairness,
a good point.
but hey. At the moment, he's leading out on pure pace by a second and a half. What of the championship leader in GTD? Well, it's been a pretty sensible run for Winward Racing. Didn't qualify where they wanted to, but Phil Ellis and earlier on Russell Ward have played the percentage game. This is what you do when you win championships, and the 57 AMG in 5th position at the moment in the GTD category. Now the restart is under review at the moment, so that there may yet be some intervention from race control, but so far so good for the Checomet number 57, the blue, black and red car that came into the weekend leading the championship. Been a mixed weekend for the championship leaders in GTD Pro, with the AO Racing Porsche. Oh, who's that gone off at the top of the hill? That was the 55 car, wasn't it?
Roxy.
That was the Corey Lewis, 3rd place Proton competition Ford Mustang, and he's lost that position to Phil Ellis and Robbie Foley, but he's fighting back at least one of them. So Robbie Foley now for Turner, who restarted in 10th position, has had a cracking restart and pulled on through. That's the 4th time, I think, now that 55 Ford has been off at the same part of the track. Jeremy Shaw.
Yeah, that's very costly for Corey Lewis. That was a fast car, and he's lost in 4 or 5 positions there, I think. I thought it was the number 77 car was off the road. It wasn't. Okay, it wasn't number 55. Fair enough. My apologies. Yeah, I think he strayed a wheel off there as well, but the 55 car was already off the road, and that's cost him half a dozen positions probably, and exactly what he didn't need to happen.
Hello to Jerry Z in a sunny central Florida, tuned in. We've got people on the south coast of the UK, centre of Europe. My goodness me, big audience today. Thank you for joining us. Stephen is on the YouTube feed, the south of London, and off again for the Ford. They're really struggling at the moment. Dirty Michelin tyres, and drops down behind the 120 of Elliott Skier. So that's another position lost. That I think is now down towards the bottom of the top 10 from a car that looked to have a podium finish on the on the cards, and that was the left rear Michelin on the dirt at turn-in. Oh, this is not at the restart that Corey Lewis wanted, and that's very unusual for Corey. He is a very safe pair of hands. He'll be kicking himself. There'll be nobody needs to tell Corey about that. He will know that himself. Meanwhile, at the front of the field, Madison Snow by 2 seconds. Mike Rockenfeller with a bit of breathing space himself now. He's pulled out almost a second to Ross Gunn in third, who, after losing a position to Dirk Muller, has now pulled out 1.4 seconds. So it is as you were, 1:64 and 23. Paul Miller, BMW, Ford Multimatic, Ford Mustang, Harter Racing, Aston Martin, Ford Multimatic, Ford Mustang. Michael Grenier still leads for Mercedes in the number 32 caught off Preston Motorsport, the KPM car, and he's still got Ollie Jarvis behind him, giving him a little bit of rear gunner tail support there. That's a GTD Pro car. Sure, Ollie will want to get past him. Very dirty still through at the bottom of the snake from the left hook through to turn 6B under the bridge. Still 16 minutes to go here, Jeremy. This one is not over at all.
It is not, you're absolutely right, and it's a tremendous contest, but Madison Snow, he's making everybody else look average right now. I mean, he's pulled out 3/4 of a second on that last lap over Mike Rockenfeller, and I think it's looking now like Madison Snow can just, if he just manages his pace, he should be just fine with just over 15 minutes now remaining.
Don't forget, we'll be, before the checkered flag, we'll be announcing our BDO Nose Strategy Awards. A couple of good nominations. There's a few teams who've done some great stuff. And looks like Robbie Fawley is up to third now for Turner Motorsport. Ahead of Phil Ellis for Winward Racing. Maurice Spinelli there as well. Spinelli's come through the field. We said that was a quick car. That Forte Racing started down towards the bottom of the top 10 on the restart in GTD. Lamborghini Huracan has the fastest lap of the race of anybody, GTD Pro or GTD. So there's performance in that Forte Lambo. It's been a sensible race for Winward. Championship implications for them. Harter Racing, good race for them. Both of their cars, actually. Particularly the number 27 car. And Lauren Heinrich back up to 7th position after a tough race for AO Racing. Just on 15 minutes. Now we are up to 113 Fahrenheit or 45 Celsius on the track. The Michelins, just when they might have thought they were going to get a little bit of respite with gaps around the field, we got the full course caution. Everybody closed up, and now they're going to have to work till the end of the race as everybody is putting as much in to their driving as they can. Shea Adam, your thoughts for the BDO Nose Strategy Award? One nomination from the field, please.
Mitchell Simmons and Lars Giersing from Paul Miller Racing. They know how to call a good strategy.
Yeah, had a fast car today as well, and their drivers have certainly done the job. Didn't panic when they lost the lead. Played the long game with that very long first run, 32 laps. Brian Sellers in the middle, 23 laps. Did his job as well. Good pace. But the pit stall doing the job for them. Jeremy, your thoughts on BDO Nose Strategy?
I think number 23 team, because they had the miscue in the pit, certainly with the short fill, but in terms of calling the strategy of the race, coming in early was a bit of a gamble. If the caution had fallen at the wrong time, that would have been bad news for them, but it didn't, and they've done a brilliant job since then. And Yeah, Ross Gunn in particular. I think for me, probably the number 23 car would be the best call so far. But you talked about Loris Spinelli, by the way. It's not strategy necessarily, but Loris Spinelli's made up another position. He got past Phil Ellis last time around, so he's made up.
Yeah.
He took the restart in 15th, and he's now in 11th. So 4 positions already made up by Loris Spinelli since the restart, and he's going to be. He's got past Robbie Foley as well, so he made up another position on this lap.
He's on the podium
also.
now.
Yeah, exactly.
On the podium, that car. They needed a bit of help to get back to that, but stayed on the lead lap. You see, that's what happens when you stay on the lead lap. Amazing stuff. And of course, he's got a couple of GTD Pro cars between him and his next GTD victim. Car's looking a bit dusty and a bit dirty. Remember, that car did an extra pit stop because it'd been off the track and had to stop on the back straight to try and shake out some of the dirt and grass cuttings from the front, and then that didn't work, so he had to come in anyway, and that still wasn't time enough for them to do their driver change. So they've been down the pit lane, I think 4 times, haven't they, this race? Certainly, yeah, 4 times.
Yeah.
In a race that's had so little full course yellow, that really should have been the end of their races, but this last full course yellow has come at exactly the right time as we head towards the last 10 minutes. Ryan Walker, hello Ryan, big virtual sim racer, says a GT race giving us another thrilling finish in the closing stages. Absolutely agree with you. I do like the purity of these GT only races. Lots of grass on the intakes of the first form Proton Ford Mustang, number 55. That light baby blue, I think it was, that Jeremy called it earlier on. Good description. This comes out of the bogey corner for that car this weekend. 3 or 4 times during the race it's had an excursion off at turns 11 and 12, the old oak tree area. Now, Corey Lewis has been on the radio. He is distraught and apologising profusely to the team for the off-track excursions. He said, all my fault, and of course now the car is running hot, but at this stage I'm going to stay out and try and get the points. I think under 10 minutes to go. Madison Snow in lockstep with Mike Rockenfeller, the brains on the box at Paul Miller Racing. Will be letting him know what that gap is, and 46.4 for him, 46.4 for Rockenfeller, 46.5 for Ross Gunn, 46.8 for Dirk Muller. They're just starting to spread out. Ollie Jarvis hasn't been able to get by. Mick Grenier's been tucked up behind that Mercedes-AMG GT3 from Courthope Preston Motorsport. He'll know every part number on the rear wing assembly of that AMG. Sitting behind it, it's half a second or thereabouts for what seems to be the last 45-50 minutes. Still a tricky little 4-5 laps to go for all of the drivers. For the drivers who feel they've got something left in their Michelin tyres and a bit of fuel to burn, they'll be wanting to add minutes on. For Madison Snow and Mick Grenier and the Courthope and Paul Miller racing teams, they'll want that second hand of the clock to be going at double speed at the moment. It's been a good race, this, Jeremy. I've enjoyed it. The strategy's been allowed to play out. We've had long periods of green flag, closed right up at the end, which has given us a little bit of drama. But it's been plain to see where the strengths and weaknesses of the teams and manufacturers have been today.
It certainly has. I completely agree with you there. I think it's been a fascinating motor race, and we're still we've still got 4 laps or so to go here, 4, maybe 5, and it's looking good here for Madison Snow certainly. But Dirk Mueller seems to be struggling a little bit in the second of the Fords. Number 65 guy, he's fallen back from Ross Gunn just the last couple of laps, losing 3 or 4 tenths of a second each lap. But for Madison Snow, just remarkable consistency, and again, really good pace. 46.3 again last time around. Only the top 4 cars are in the 46s. Everybody else is in the 47s or the 48s.
Stephen McAleer, the fastest thing on track at the moment, but many laps down in the repaired gradient. Acura NSX GT. Now, actually, what is important there, and now I realise why that car has come back out. Shea Adam, this is all about an invitation to a big motor race, isn't it? For not necessarily Stephen McAleer, but the Inception racing car is now only a further lap ahead of the 66 gradient racing car.
And there are 3 competitors in that Aiken Cup running the full season. Ori Fidani, who came in with the lead, will leave with maximum points. But right behind them now, we've got Sheena Monk and Brendan Reeb. And by finishing ahead, it means that Sheena will gain 30 points further, or 20 points further, on Brendan Reeb. It's all about the long game. And with the 2 endurance races coming up, it means there will be even more bronze drivers in the mix. So this is where they're trying to capitalize.
Yeah, very good point, Shay. Sometimes it's a bit weird to wonder why somebody is 14 laps down, want to get that car back out, but they are playing the long game for that Aiken Award that would get the invitation to Le Mans 2025 in the Le Mans GT3 category. Very interesting. And good call by Andres Levens and the rest of the gradient team to realise that it was worth getting Stephen back out there just in case something happened. And then, of course, the engine problem for the McLaren of Inception Racing has opened the door for them to get additional points. 5 minutes to go. 2.5 seconds, 146.5, 146.4, 146.4, 146.9. Those are your top 4 last lap times. Status quo at the front of the field. Lauren Heinrich is looking at the back of Ben Barnican at the top of the roller coaster, and the back end of the Lexus starting to move around a little bit now in this heat, which has just dropped back a few degrees actually. I think we've seen 116 Fahrenheit. It's got up to 111, and now it's dropped down to 102 Fahrenheit, or if you prefer 39 Celsius. Coming up, Michelin post race tech, hashtag Michelin PRT to @IMSA Radio. But this battle between the Lexus and Roxy continues. Oh, who was that sneaking through? I think that's Laura Spinelli.
Laura Spinelli.
Yes, it is.
Yep.
Spinelli's gone through, and he wants to be past that Lexus as well, because he's got a shot at second position, and Roman De Angelis here, if he can clear that little gaggle of cars. That's the GT3, the GTD podium battle there.
Yeah, absolutely right, John. He is absolutely flying, isn't he, Loris Spinelli? And at the back of this train of cars, there is a championship leader, number 57, Winward Mercedes. 2 cars behind him now, though, is Robbie Foley in the Liqui Moly Turner Motorsport BMW. He's just lost a couple of positions on the last lap to 57 and number 4. Both went past him in this big, long train of cars. And, of course, for the championship, the number 96 car is second in the championship. Number 57 car is leading. The 96 was ahead of 57, but no longer.
So Ben Barnicat and Lauren Heinrich having a go at each other. 96 BMW coming through the field as well. Robbie Foley has pulled his way up to 5th position after the restart. He's pulling Vassar Sullivan's, Parker Thompson through with him. The number 12 car being a horrid day for Corvette. Both of the cars with problems. They'll finish 8th and 9th in GTD Pro. It will be the white flag next time by. We're just going to squeak one more lap out of this one. Madison Snow will be pleased to see that one. Impeccable performance from Paul Miller Racing. From the preparation and the speed of the car, the new qualifying records, the execution of the pit stops and strategy from those in the lane, and the two drivers have played their part, more than played their part, in amongst some sheer quality works drivers at the front of the field with plenty of experience. It's been a happy hunting ground for Paul Miller Racing here in a variety of machinery, and they'll go back to victory circle if they can hold on for another lap and a half. Our BDO Nose Strategy Awards is going to Heart of Racing in the 23 car. They've done well with both of their cars, actually. Little snafu in the pits when they're short fueled, but that hasn't cost them too much. Probably cost them second position, but they've pulled themselves up to third, and off goes the number 12 right at the end, Parker Thompson. As we come to the white flag, and Parker Thompson is off on the exit of the Oak Tree turn. The rear spoiler is deranged. So Heart of Racing team, the number 23, take the BDO Nose Strategy Award for that early pit stop and using the performance potential of the new Michelin tyres, drag them up through the field. And a white flag for Madison Snow. Shame for Parker there.
Yeah, he was involved in a big battle there. He had Alberto Costa Balboa right behind him in the Conquest Ferrari, had been for the last several laps, and also behind him was number 13 car, the AWA Corvette, which had got past. Now, he did it all on his own, didn't he? Just carried a bit too much speed through the first apex there, up on the dirt, and then into the tyre barrier.
Yeah, that has been the signature incident and off this weekend at VIR. Such a shame. However, let us focus on those who have... We're hearing Parker's okay, by the way, on the radio. That's the main thing. Past the scene of that little incident for our race leader. My goodness me, what a run it has been this weekend. Not put a foot wrong. Post-race tech to come, so results are unofficial, of course, but take nothing away from what we've seen. It will be the checkered flag this time around for the number 1 car in P1 pretty much all of the weekend. New qualifying records, one vision, one team, and victory for the number 1 of Brian Sellers and Madison Snow, and Paul Miller Racing. They win the Michelin GT Challenge at VIR.
For Paul Miller Racing, it has been a year since a visit to Victory Lane, and that was when Brian and Madison last did it here. Pretty sure I'm seeing emotion in Brian's eyes. Win number 16. How does this one feel?
It's pretty great. The guys have worked so hard. I mean, everybody works hard. Every single team works hard. But, you know, we've had an up and down season, and I think our guys deserve this. I'm super proud for them and all the effort they continue to put in. And, you know, Madison did a great job today. And just, you know, this Paul Miller group is super resilient.
It's your second win in 2 weeks with another series as well. Feel like a bit of a bounce back for you personally?
Yeah, I mean, I guess, you know, you just try and take one weekend at a time, and, you know, Madison did a really great job for us this weekend. He was just on a little bit of a different level, it seems, than most people on this one, but it's always a team effort. You know, the guys were super good in the stops. It was a race where there were a lot of penalties issues, and our guys stayed clean, didn't make mistakes. It just, yeah, I'm really happy for everyone.
Congrats, Brian. Really happy for you and the team.
Thank you. Thanks.
Excellent team performance, as Brian says. Let me give you the unofficial results. top of the shop, the top 4 were GTD pros in this all GT affair at VIR. BMW, Paul Miller Racing win it from Ford Multimatic number 64 in second. 3 seconds the margin of victory at the end. It would have been a lot more than that, but for the late race caution. Roscoe holds on for 3rd position, and a bit of a gap, 7.5 seconds back from the Heart of Racing number 23 Aston to the second of the Fords. Big upturn in fortune for the Ford Multimatic Motorsport team. Mick Grenier in 5th brings home the core of Preston Motorsport Mercedes and wins GTD ahead of Ollie Jarvis in 5th, who in 6th rather, 5th in the GT category for Pfaff McLaren. Then the rest of the GTD podium with Roman De Angelis bringing home Heart of Racing's Aston and Laura Spinelli. What a run to 3rd position for the Lamborghini Huracan of Forte. Shea Adam.
With the guy that we talked to on the grid, Kenton, we mentioned you knew how to win WeatherTech races, and you did it today. How does it feel to give this first win to the KPM organization?
Man, that feels good. I'll say it feels good. You know, when we talked on the grid, you know, I knew we had a good car, and I knew it was going to be tough, but, you know, it was just all down to strategy and saving some fuel at the beginning. That gave us the track position to be able to stay ahead of the guys in front, so or stay ahead of the guys behind, you know, so yeah, it feels really good to give a win to these guys, and Mick did a phenomenal job at the end, and we've got a good little Korthoff and Mercedes GT3 race car here, so hopefully we can do better and keep improving and continue this momentum into Indy and Road Atlanta.
I mean, you made that pass right at the beginning of the race. That was you laying down intention, wasn't it?
I mean, it was like really the only place that you can really make something happen is at the start, and you know, I've been here enough times where, you know, you can make stuff happen on either side of the track, going into 1 or into 3, into 4. You just have to make sure you're on the right side where the hole is to take advantage of the gap in front of you to be able to get the track position. So thankfully everything was clean, no contact, just had a lot of fun, and man, it was awesome. It's awesome to win one of these things.
Congrats.
Thank you very much.
Stay tuned on RS2, part of the radio show. Part of the Radio 2 network of channels for our Michelin post-race tech. Jeremy Shaw, before we wrap up the international feed here from VIR as the number 1 BMW heads into victory lane. Let's have a look at the point standings as we head to the last 2 rounds of the season.
Yeah, it's getting awfully tight now in GTD Pro because the AO Racing number 77 Porsche finished today in 7th position. The 3rd place finish for Harder Racing Team's Aston Martin car number 23. That'll bring him unofficially within 17 points of the championship lead. Vasser Sullivan's number 14 will actually slip to 4th behind Paul Miller Racing's BMW. So 25.19, 2,519 for AO Racing, 25.02 for the Harder Racing Team, 24.08 for the Paul Miller BMW, and then 23.58 for Vasser Sullivan. The manufacturer championship is similar but different. The Porsche actually has still a slightly larger lead, 25.79 to 25.40, and then Chevrolet, well, actually Lexus on 24.27 will move 1 point ahead of Chevrolet up into 3rd position, wow. But super tight. In GTD, it's still a handy lead, of course, for the number 57 team, and also with the 5th win of the season for Mercedes, they will extend their manufacturer's GTD championship lead.
Brilliant stuff, Jeremy and Shea. As I say, stay tuned. We have some exclusive content coming up live on Michelin Post Race Tech, hashtag Michelin PRT. Here comes Grenier into the victory lane area. We'll bring you some more comments, some more interviews, and some more analysis of what has been a great Michelin GT event here at VIR, and Mick Grenier doing a great job at the end for Korthoff. Amazing to think that's their first victory in this particular championship, and brilliant stuff from everybody. A big final thanks to Rob Lomas, who's been pushing the buttons in London, and to Aaron and the rest of the team in Concord, North Carolina. A special thanks, as always, to the brilliant tape apes who have been working their socks off this weekend. There's been so much incident, and we've had it all in front of us at various times over the weekend, and we couldn't do any of it without our camera ops either. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, all of you. We'll reconvene in a couple of weeks' time at the Brickyard for the penultimate round of the season, the penultimate long race of the season as well. That's it for our international TV feed. Join us on RS2 for Michelin Post Race Tech coming up after I've taken a quick breath. Bye for now.